I got it, but James, that whole argument rests on luxury being the standard. So let me ask you.
Right, like everyone's life in this panel and everyone you know. How much of your day do you go, what should I get it? They only have meat at Trader Joe's today. It's not true. You can be a vegan anywhere. I know, because I was a vegan 30 years ago when I was in my 20s and you couldn't get vegan food. And so now when people are like, it's hard being a vegan, are you kidding me? Like, there are whole aisles of regular grocery stores filled with vegan food.
On our bush, what that means?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of fun.
We got Tom up in the house. Tom, introduce yourself to the audience, please.
How's it going, guys? My name's Tom. I go by Tomfoolery Show. Do politics, drama, news, debates. How's it going?
Welcome to the panel. Thanks for jumping on.
We got a couple more coming.
All right, cool. And your general take, you're right leaning, right? Christian.
I'm more of like a liberal, kind of like a centrist liberal kind of guy. Yeah.
All right. Okay. We'll target you. Who else you got coming on here? This is gonna be fun.
Just don't worry about it.
You
know what I mean? Just go with the flow as they pop in here.
we gotta have Zonzel back on because that's he's a good piñata. He's like a piñata that bites back and he's like, you hit me, but he's a good one to have on.
I think that Zonzel has become more conservative than tomfoolery. I'm not gonna lie.
I've moved the opposite direction. Yeah, when I first met Andrew, I was definitely still Christian and still farther right.
Now you're shopping at Warby Parker and shit.
Well, and he used to have hair too. Like back in the day, like he used to have hair, and then once the hair went, the Christianity went with it. It's been a bad shit show for poor Tom.
Actually, where is it? Where is that toward though? I mean, when you go away from conservatism, what is it you're actually going toward?
Into the abyss.
Liberty?
Well, I don't think that there's like a dichotomy in that way. It's more so that like once you don't really have faith anymore and you kind of just don't believe in the thing, it takes a while to kind of admit that to yourself, especially 30 years into being a Christian. It's really hard to like reanalyze everything you've ever believed and all of your morals and and your entire family's Christian, your dad's a pastor, like being able to admit this not just to yourself but to them as well. It's a bit of a process, but it's more about just losing faith and then trying to reanalyze the world through a new lens.
What if just that paradigm was wrong that you ran away from?
What paradigm?
The paradigm of the one you were raised in. Like you're saying the version you were raised in is wrong. What if that's true, but it doesn't logically follow that any account of Christianity is wrong?
There was a long period.
As a possibility?
Yeah, there was a long period where I was like questioning what types of Christianity I believed in or what denomination I wanted to be. And like I went through.
What the fuck is wrong with your hair? What the fuck did you do,
all those things.
These two are inverse of each other.
I don't know.
What the fuck? Can you even see? You look like the sheepdog from Looney Tunes. What the fuck is going on here, Bunk?
Absolutely.
What the
Dude,
fuck?
I'm chilling.
All right.
Wait a second, Tom. Is this recent? Because I saw a debate of you like not even a year ago, and you were doing a defense of a Christian faith. I mean, what happened? You sleep with a dude or something?
No, it was. I would say it was over a year ago. 2022. The end of 2022 is when I kind of like announced publicly that I was leaving religion and that I didn't really have faith anymore.
But you have faith in something, don't you?
It depends. What do you mean?
I don't know. You put your faith somewhere. I mean, where is it? Where is it now? Where'd you put it?
Hang on. Someone in chat says Bunk stole Tom's hair.
Yeah, legit, dude. Fucking no morning at all.
Bunk stole Tom's hair.
It's fucked up.
Yeah, man.
I'm not responsible for what my chat says. It's not my fault.
Tom stole my ability to grow facial hair, okay? Fuck it. Can't grow anything on this bitch.
Yeah, I remember this debate, Rachel. Jay versus Pastor Jay. Your dad is what is it? What are you? Protestant? Calvinist? What are you? What were you?
Yeah, he's is it Protestant? Yeah, he's a Baptist. He was a Baptist pastor for a long time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I mean, that's unfortunate. I mean, I guess it's in a sense, if you went away from something I think is false, it's not terrible. But if you're going to go into the abyss, as Jake said, into relativism, we're all ready for you to come back to the raft when you're drowning.
Bunk, can you go comb your fucking hair, Bunk? Can you go?
Like,
yeah, there you go.
Or something?
Oh
Yeah,
my
we
God,
can't
this
tell-
is
we can't tell-
ridiculous.
There you go.
Yeah. We can't tell if you're lying unless we see your eyes,
Yeah.
so it's not
Eyes
fair.
the window to the cell.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I haven't seen
What
you in
is
a
this
long
shit?
time, Bunk.
Whoa, Andrew's
been-
hair.
What's up?
Couple years,
Andrew does
right?
have hair, yeah.
I do have
Yeah,
hair.
I've
Yeah.
only seen it nicely combed, on when you want to look nice for the ladies on whatever.
Right. The ladies. Welcome, Mr. James Sexton to the show. Thank you so much for showing up.
Listen, I saw Andrew throw up the bat signal, and I just had
Yeah.
to come along.
I did throw up the bad signal. James Sexton. We have a show that's going to be launching soon that you guys are going to really enjoy, I promise. But James, how you doing? Nice to see you. Why don't you introduce yourself for those who don't know who you are?
Hey, gang, I'm Jim Sexton. Thanks for having me here, guys. James Sexton. I'm an attorney, a divorce lawyer, a trial lawyer in New York City. You may have seen me on Soft Wet Underbelly or Lex Friedman. Those are the two things most people seem to know me from. I wrote a book some years ago that didn't get anywhere near as much attention.
Hang on. 1 second. Bunk, if you don't stop typing, I'm coming to your fucking
shit.
house.
Fuck, I forgot I have the loudest fucking keyboard on the goddamn planet.
What is
Couldn't hear
wrong
it.
with you fucking kids? I know.
It's
sure
so
that you're
fucking
on
loud. It's
some
so
kind of-
abhorrently
Yeah,
loud.
stop
I
it.
can't get this microphone to not pick it up.
Stop
It's so
it.
bad.
What are you even typing?
Anyway.
Who cares? Just talk to the people on the panel.
Yeah, but I think he can't look
anything.
around like he's not interested, right? I'm not interested in
What
what's
do you want me
going.
to
Why don't
say?
you
What
pay
do you want to talk
attention?
about? I was
Bunk?
That's what
What's
makes him
going on?
cool. The lack
James-
of interest
James-
makes him cool.
Anyway, back to
What the
James.
fuck?
You
James,
you
you get,
interrupted
like, upset.
James,
Tom,
the
you used to
great
get
James
upset
I actually
Sexton.
wasn't- I wasn't
So you're upset
offended.
that you're talking
I
too
thought-
little. What's going on?
I was offended.
Dude, I can do
I had no
anything
problem
right.
with it.
Holy shit. I come on these panels, it's like fucking everything.
James, you
I
were about to
thought-
say
I just thought Bunk was transcribing everything I was saying. I'm used to that. Court reporter. I was like, shit, they got a court reporter? This is
Taking
great.
notes.
Yeah, I was like,
Wait,
all right,
wait.
just can you read that back? Strike that from the record. Thank you. It'd be good. Actually, a court reporter for Andrew and I's discussions would be a good idea. Because I'll say, didn't you just say it? I didn't say that. I'm like, fuck, I am getting old. I don't know. Maybe I got it wrong. Anyway, I'm Jim Sexton. I'm a divorce lawyer. I've spent the last 5 days and then the last 12 or 13 hours today arguing with people. So when Andrew texted me and he was like, hey, man, do you want to come do that for free? Sure, let's do that. So
Make sure you go
Good
and
to see you,
subscribe to James Sexton's channel. You can also find him on Twitter. He, for a lawyer, he does not do the online self-promotion like he should be doing. So we'll do it for him. Don't worry about it. We'll do it for him. So anyway, a full panel here, guys. Jim Bob, you got some clips to play?
I don't. We're just gonna run with it. Actually, James, you were about to say something about a book. Is that what you were about to say?
my book, my book's been out for a while. 2019, my book
Just
came
that
out.
how
It's
aw-
also
how-
on Audible.
How awful people can be during divorce.
Actually, my book is a book. It has a lot of that, but my book is called "If You're in My Office, It's Already Too Late: A Divorce Lawyer's Guide to Staying Together." And it's actually a book about how, as a divorce lawyer for over 20 years, I've learned a lot about how marriages fall apart. And it's basically suggestions and practical solutions for people on how to, try to prevent the slippage and to do the preventative maintenance so that you never end up in a divorce lawyer's office.
And you've been on a lot of shows promoting that book, a lot of big shows.
Yeah, I had a long run. When the book first came out, I was just a divorce lawyer in New York City. I had no media stuff I'd done, and luckily my publisher had a good publicist, so I did a little press tour. And Steve Harvey's audience loved me. Apparently, I'm very popular with a demographic of a certain, middle to late middle-aged African-American women love me. I don't know what that's about because I'm so white, I'm plaid.
Is that because you take on so many of those cases or what?
I don't know. I got to tell you.
Knows how to
but
look after his kids.
So I ended up doing 13 13 seasons of and they're broken into mini seasons, but of Steve Harvey's show, and I had a segment called How to Stay in Love with James Sexton, and that turned into a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's I was Access Hollywood's correspondent for a while, all that kind of stuff, all while having a full-time job. Like, it's not like I was, like as a divorce lawyer in New York City, you're not sitting around going, man, I'm so bored. So I don't know. I signed on for another job. So that's what that's turned into.
Well, not to argue your way out of your own profession, but are you looking at it from your
by the
view?
way, hang on real quick, Jim. I'm so sorry, but
That's
just
okay,
real quick, for you guys in the panel, if you hear anything that you disagree with, anything that you want to jump on, you're more than welcome to. This is something of a no holds bar. Of course, follow TOS, but we do encourage dialogue here. So I just wanted to put that
I want to
out.
bring something up.
Sure, go ahead.
James, you actually ghosted me when we were talking.
Oh shit!
And I'm so glad to see you. Yeah.
Yeah, good to see you. I have no recollection of that whatsoever. What's your show?
Oh shit!
Oh, I sent you the email and you fucked me.
Oh man, I'm sorry. You know,
That's
man, I have
okay.
to tell you something. If I look in my email right now, I guarantee it. I've got at least 3 people asking me to be on a show. So I've got, yep, I do right now. I just looked, and I want to sell.
What did you do? What did Jim Bob do?
I wanted the one-on-one.
Yeah, but you got rid of James.
Yeah, but you
Sexton.
killed James.
Sorry.
What are you doing, Jim Bob?
Sorry.
Is this one of those there can only be
What the
one
hell
Jim? Is
just
that what's
happened?
going on? This fucking guy. All right,
We didn't
Jake,
know.
now I guess we're even.
Yeah,
He bumped me out.
Well,
There you go.
That's how
There you
see,
go,
Jim
Jake.
Bob, you missed it, man. You had a great
There you go, Jake.
shot there.
It was
All
so
you had
good,
to say
and he
was,
fucked it up.
Protecting. I was, you know what? Wait, you did what to
You
Jake?
fucked it
And
up,
then
Jim
fucking
Bob.
Boom.
He was mixing the bag.
You ghosted Jake. Sexton's out. Boom. That's it.
Boom.
You know?
Boom. Yeah.
But no, man, I really do apologize. I don't know what your show even was.
Maybe I addressed it wrong. It's this Rattlesnake TV, the little old YouTube channel.
It's a big channel. It's a big channel.
Did you message me? Really? Did we?
I did.
Did we
I emailed
connect?
you. No. You said, I said, hey James, would love to interview on my channel. You were fire on Soft White Underbelly. I said you were fire, and then I said, let me know if you're interested. And you gave me your email address. You said, let's do it, brother. Email me at boom. I emailed you. I waited by my computer for 4 days.
Oh,
You waited by your computer.
All right.
Yeah,
that last part
I
was a little much.
myself up and was
That last
just-
part was a little. It was a little.
Little too much.
I live in
Little too
Chelsea,
much.
so
Little too
I
much.
was a little. It's like I
Just left
sat
him sitting there.
I was super sad, and I just missed it. I just was like, "What is this? Is it me or is it him?" I have. You know what it is? It's not you. It's me. I have abandonment issues and attachment issues, and I'm sorry. I didn't.
That's all right.
I
accept
blame
your
Tom
apology.
for all of this, by
I'm
the
just
way.
not in love with you. I just maybe I went to spam, man. I just looked through all my emails and you said rattlesnake.
Yeah, I must have stopped
I
buying
don't
the
have
cereal
one.
that you
I
like.
don't have one email with rattlesnake anywhere in it.
We don't take rattlesnake seriously anyway. We think it's like something else, right? We're like,
Yeah.
I think you're making shit up, Jake. I think you're trying to come at me, and I don't appreciate it. No.
it's getting
If that
debunked.
happened, Jake, I'm sorry. You know what? Andrew
it's
has my
okay.
cell phone. He
Look,
should give it to you. Happy
I
Yeah,
New
you
Year.
can-
I shouldn't have hung out our dirty laundry like that. You know.
Now,
All
no,
right,
it's
listen.
it's all good,
Clear
man.
the
If
air.
you
We clear the air.
if he says I can hand over the cell phone number, I'll do it. But I
You
only do
can.
that stuff
Absolutely.
with permission. So
Absolutely. No, that's
those
why
are
I
those
said
are the
it, Andrew.
rules, right? You only hand
get
over the
going.
cell
Right.
phone with permission.
That's why I gave you all those nudes of me, because I was like, he's not showing them to anybody.
But I sent those to Tom though. I did do
Oh, well,
that.
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That doesn't count.
Anyway.
I'll accidentally
where are
leak
we
them.
at?
So.
Now that the drama's
were
been
you?
aired, I had
Yeah.
no idea that any of that happened. By the way,
Yeah, that was.
Well,
that wasn't
I didn't either.
well, I'm assuming once you're up there on all these shows, there's just 3 emails a day saying, "Hey, come on my show."
It's a
come on my
lot,
show, right?
man. You get a lot. And, the thing is, my first way of doing it was that I would just say yes to everybody. And then I got to the point where I was doing like 5 or 6 of these a week. It got to the point where, and they're not even just like an hour. Sometimes it's like 3 hours, 4 hours. Like, it's just long. I did last week I did Mark Gagnon, the comedian, his show, and he said, yeah, it'll be like 2 hours. And it was in Brooklyn. So I was like, cool, that's fine. You know, like it's right in my town. 4.5 hours we recorded for. just you lose track of time, you know, and it's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked with Lex for 6.5 hours and he edited it down with 2 bathroom breaks of 5 minutes.
Wow, that's crazy. That's like being able to talk to a wall for like that long. I mean,
yeah, I think
there's no evidence he's not a robot. You know, I know you can't talk any shit about him, but I mean, that is. I don't
think either thing you just said is anything Lex wouldn't say about himself.
He'd be like, yes.
he thinks he's pretty robotic. He knows that he's you know, but
the love guru.
You know, listen, I think one of the things that makes him an interesting interviewer is the fact that he doesn't throw too much of personality at that, and I think his it's very easy for, you know, an interviewer's personality to overshadow what the guest is. I think even Rogan has quite
I hate to cut in, guys, you know, in this panel, but I am told that there's a person who wants to come on in the worst way. James Sexton's time, though, is worth $200 an hour at least. I can guarantee this person $30, but only if they send in $200 that I can hand to James Sexton. And other than that, I'm afraid I just can't let this person on.
It's a consultation fee.
It's a consultation.
I'm $750 an hour. So
he's $750 an hour. Look at the bargain I'm giving
big
you.
Discount. Yeah, it's a big discount.
It's for poor people. It's a bargain for poor people. So
yeah, but well, I mean, these particular people, they can't afford you. But anyway, James, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
I think I know you're talking about.
Listen, the only thing more expensive than a good divorce lawyer is a bad one.
James can't help them, and Andrew, James can't help them anyway. So
can I ask James a question then? Because I hear pretty often from people that like within divorce that like men are way more likely to lose cases, whereas I've seen tons of studies more recently that actually say that men are very likely to win cases when they try to get custody of their kids, and that it's actually just a lack of trying from men mostly that makes them lose custody. Do you have any insight on that?
You know, I would say there's a lot to unpack there, but I'll tell you what I tell my clients. I've been doing this 23 years. 23 years ago, it would be harder for a man to get custody because, you know, they got rid of what's called the tender years doctrine, which was the assumption that any child under the age of 7 was in the tender years and therefore should presumably be in the custody of mom unless there was an unfit mother. That's where that standard came out, the unfit mother. Therefore should presumably that was around for a long time. And we had the maternal presumption, essentially. And then that went away, but it went away like everything goes away. Like it doesn't go away overnight, you know? So it like there's a lot of judges that were sitting in the courts when the tender years doctrine was a thing. So for a long time, you had to kind of get that meat through the machine. Now it's a younger bench. It's a much more diverse bench. The diversity you see in, you know, on Netflix and Disney Plus is like nothing compared to the diversity you see in the bench now. So it's a very different demographic now. And what's happened as a function of that is, you know, there's been a shifting of perceptions of gender and things like that. So I think that there's more of a level playing field for men and women now. That being said, here's the key factor. Women fight harder for custody than men, period, hands down, 10x. Why? Here's why, in my opinion. We go out, I'm at a bar, we meet. You say to me, so what do you do? I say, my name's Jim, I'm a lawyer, I'm divorced, I have 2 kids, they live with their mother. I see them every other weekend and once a week for dinner. You go, divorced guy, you know, divorced busy professional. You meet a woman at a bar. She says, yeah, I have 2 kids. They live with their father. I see them every other weekend and once a week for dinner. You immediately go, what the fuck is wrong with her? Like, what's going on there? You know, there is a massive amount of performative parenting in the female spaces, female-oriented spaces.
It's like a status symbol.
They fight harder. Status symbol, how one defines oneself. I mean, you know, I don't know a lot of men that experience empty nest syndrome with the intensity that a lot of women do. Not that men or women feel differently about their children, but there is something about, even in these modern times where some of our gender roles have kind of, you know, disappeared. I think we have some issues with still, you know, that we devalue how men treat children and how they love children, but I don't think anybody could argue that there isn't a special bond between mothers and children. I mean, a mother, carries a child, feeds a child. I mean, this is like a major, major biological thing. So women fight harder for custody. When men fight hard for custody, they have, in my experience, the same level of success. They really do. But women fight really hard for custody, harder than men.
But how
do.
can we spin this? Acceptable. How can we spin this correctly to shit on women? That's my question.
Sure. Yeah, that's what
how
we
can we
know.
spin this correctly?
Well, I think reality spins it in a way that makes women look shitty. Because here's what I will tell you. Okay. I think a lot of those women are not particularly good mothers, but they really want those kids are a human shield, like you can kind of go like, well, you haven't done anything with your life. Yes, I have. I produced that kid, right? But like, that's your greatest accomplishment. Yep, that's my greatest accomplishment. Okay. So, and when that kid grows up, will their greatest accomplishment be their kid? Because you're basically describing the ideology of a cancer cell. Like, I want to grow so I can grow, so I can grow, so I can grow, so I can grow. Like you're basically, you're a virus is what you're saying, so there's got to be some greater purpose, some greater calling. The other reason why I think women make themselves look like shit in the process is it's a lot of times it's nothing to do with custody. It's a proxy war about money. Mm-hmm. If you get the kid 51% of the time, you get child support. And let me tell you something, that is lucrative. Having kids with when a professional athlete gets married or gets divorced or any of those things, I'm always like, dude, they had a prenup. Don't worry about it. They're going to hand off a couple of $1 million. They're going to keep the majority of their wealth. It's no big deal. They have a kid, whether it's with a girlfriend, a wife, anything else, they are locked in. They are done. They are attached to that person for the rest of their life, and certainly for the first 21 years of that kid's life. So there is a massive financial incentive to fight for custody, and women are very, very, very happy to do it for the money. Meanwhile, they have plausible deniability, and they have the ability to say, oh, no, it's
well,
not
now
that.
I feel like you have sufficiently shit on women, and we can move the conversation forward, James.
Right.
And women are less likely to pay custody as well, right? Like, but men are way more likely to actually have to pay, what is it? What are they called? Child support. Yeah. But men are way more likely to pay child support and spousal support than women. Yeah.
Tom,
that
you
is
want to get into some other topics,
much
Tom.
more.
You're kind of wrecking this for us, Tom. We want to get into some other fun topics here. And all you're doing, the poor guy just went and argued his lawyer shit all fucking days trying to let what little hair he has left down. Otherwise, he's going to look like you, Tom.
This is really, it's starting to,
Misery needs company.
Bunk, are you getting all this down, by the way?
Yeah, it is.
Stenographer. All right. I need you to read back Andrew's comments.
Absolutely. I fucking got it, dude.
Wait, so James, people don't have you on to talk about legality or more like social aspects of divorce, right?
We'll have me on to talk about divorce. I mean, that's the software. Really was divorced. Lex was divorced.
But his social commentary is fantastic. Why? Nobody ever has you come on for social commentary, and it's way better than any of the fucking divorce talk.
You're one of the only people that I get to have those kinds of things with. Andrew and I on the phone, we'll be calling for like a quick, let's schedule something, and an hour and a half later, we're like,
exactly.
we're like, well, it's a function of the nature in which, it's like an ontological justification for man's existential dilemma is what it is. I'm like, I'm starting the conversation, and I'm like, all right, I have 5 minutes, man. I have 5 minutes. 35 minutes later, we're like, another thing. So it's,
Well, I'm just trying to make you better at your craft, James. That's all.
I appreciate it. What I also love about it too, Andrew, is we end our debates like a guy who just had sex with a hooker and can't wait to get out of the room. Like, I don't know what happens. Like, we're going and going. We're like, that was the only thing. And then we both have shot our intellectual load. And then you go, all right, I'll talk to you later. I'm like, all right, bye.
I
Like,
feel
I
like
was-
I feel
I
like you
was-
took
it's
that
like
to a
sometimes
level
I-
I was not expecting, James.
Because I do sometimes, like, we're talking and then you finish and we're like, all right, bye. And then I'm like,
he intellectually
Call
came all
me.
over his intellectual face.
I'm going to start treating it like a girlfriend thing. In like a couple, you're going to call me.
No.
And I'll be like, oh, now you
I'm
want to
fucking
debate?
leaving. I'm
Now you want to
leaving.
debate?
Hey, James, what part of your job is going to be taken by AI?
Oh, my job? Well, the research part will get eaten by AI. I think some of the drafting will get taken by AI.
That sounds like
all
women's
the
jobs,
shit-
though, James.
Well, that's all the shit I hand to my underlings. So I'm like, great, fucking take it. Like, go ahead. Like, AI's not gonna come into court and like stare down your spouse and like sling bullshit at the judge and like it's not gonna be able to do that. So it's fine. I got job security. Plus, I'm only gonna do this a few more fucking years. So then,
Hang on,
Andrew
James.
has this way. I'll be canceled in a month.
Hang
so
on,
it
hang on,
doesn't
James.
matter.
There's something I wanted to key in on. You know that Bunk over here is a filthy socialist scumbag. I just wanted to let you know
What?
that. Like most of the years.
That's what he's writing his manifesto. That's
he's
what
taking
he's
it.
doing. Okay.
Absolutely.
Sell us. Hey, Bunk, sell us all. You got a lot of people
Sell us
listening.
on
You could
what?
sell us
What
on
do you want me to sell you on?
on your political social system.
Oh,
It's
sure.
time. This is your
I can
time.
talk
This
about-
is
I can
your.
talk about
Do you have an
social
echo you
system
could put
shit,
on
probably.
your?
Yeah,
Why are
you gotta turn your
mumbling?
mic up
Tell
now.
us about your
Your-
fucking
your
social
Your mic is
system.
way
Already
too
failing.
quiet now.
Already
Oh
failing.
my goddamn.
We're gonna
Holy
hear
shit.
your
Jesus
keyboard
fuck.
one way or
I'm
the
trying to
other.
make sure my fucking
There you go.
microphone is
Okay.
working.
Now we hear
Everyone's
you.
ready.
Jesus
Everyone's
Christ.
ready to convert.
I don't know,
Well,
generally speaking, I just base out a lot of things in morality. Normally, I
Yeah, I
go
still
down
can't hear you.
my
You're still.
ethical
You're,
argument,
listen, you're fucking mumbling.
where you go through. What do you want me to do, dude? It's fucking late at night. I mean, I can
Enunciate.
turn the fuck up.
Enunciate.
I can start trying to
There you
talk
go.
like
That's
this
good.
the entire time.
Yeah, there we
Do
go.
that.
That's right.
There we
That's-
go.
Okay.
Some masculinity.
Basically,
Here we
I
go.
tend to-
Here we go.
I tend to just route everything through morality. It seems the things that would motivate us are experiences, generally speaking. There's not really a reason to value experiences, one experience over another, and then just maximizing the preferable experiences.
Holy
Then
shit!
have
Do you
into the
do you
applied
talk
ethical
to
shit.
people in reality? Do you go
Yeah.
out and hang out with people?
Yeah, I
or?
do IRL stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you talk
I
like
do
this
IRL
to them? You
politics.
just
Yeah, I
mumble
do a
to
ton of
them?
IRL
You know,
politics
at the
stuff.
coffee shop, you just put your head down and
No, normally I'm not speaking into a
the
microphone.
fuck, dude?
Normally I'm not speaking into a microphone late at night. I don't know.
What are you saying?
What?
Normally I don't speak into a microphone late at night.
What are
like,
you saying
I'm
to us?
Chilling.
What are you saying
There's
to
no
us?
way you're not hearing anything I'm saying.
Tell us
Like,
what
I
we're-
don't. How
I'm
far are we
hearing
gonna
you.
go back and forth? Listen, Jim Bob, if you want to argue with me about something, were we supposed to like have a veganism conversation like fucking forever ago?
Whoa.
Veganism's
Were we
dead.
trying to set that up?
Veganism's dead.
It's our.
Talk to
He
me.
already won.
Are
Talk
you a
to-
vegan?
It's
Talk
dead.
to me. Talk to me. Talk to me when you.
alive.
Wait. Talk to me when you
Are
have
you a vegan?
10%. Yeah.
Yes.
You are vegan. I was a vegan
Yeah.
for many years, actually. And my sister, all 4 of her children are vegans. So,
Why
since
did you
birth,
stop being
now
a
they're in
vegan?
their late
Did you
20s.
change your mind, or did you just too much pressure,
So
too hard?
all of your
You know, I'll
money
be-
goes towards treating broken bones, is what you're telling me.
No, but for real though, Jim Bob, when
Luxury.
are we gonna set up the conversation?
Wait.
Some
When
video stuff,
when
so we're looking for
veganism
a
reaches
veganism conversation.
5%. Yeah. When
When it
veganism
reaches 5%, I thought you were.
Yeah,
I thought you
5,
were gonna
6.
agree to the conversation.
Yeah.
Aw.
You can have it right now. Give me
Sure,
your
we can have
best
veganism.
argument for veganism.
Yeah,
Go.
sure. The
Shoot.
same reason that it's wrong to rape a dog, right? Why is it wrong to rape a dog?
Hang on, watch the
Can you give me
TOS
the reason?
language.
Yeah.
Bunk.
We're on YouTube.
I'm sorry. Why is it wrong to sexually
Just use
assault a
essay. Just use essay.
Or
Just say
great.
essay, bro.
Essay, okay. What
From
about
your-
essaying a dog? What's
Okay,
wrong
great.
about it?
From your
Why
view,
is
there's
it
nothing
wrong?
wrong with it.
No, there's very clearly things wrong with it. It
No,
causes
there's
animal
not.
suffering.
Not from your view. Wait.
course there is.
So if it doesn't cause suffering, it's not wrong.
No. It's not gonna
Okay,
be
so
wrong
if
unless
I
it
so if I
doesn't cause
sedate
experiential
listen,
consequence, no?
hold on. So if I sedate a chihuahua and I duct tape it to my dick, it's not wrong from your view, right? If I
No, it's
sedate
clearly
it.
wrong.
Wait, it's not harming it.
Yes, it is. It clearly harms your
I'm
psychological
not
states.
harming it.
I think that
Wait,
raping a dog
hold
is
I'm
on.
not harming
I
it.
think
Same
Bunk,
reason that.
Bunk, you're mishearing what Jim Bob is saying. He's saying his penis is so small it will not in
It
any
can-
way harm that
It doesn't
poor
harm it.
dog.
It
I
doesn't
didn't
harm
That's
say
what
it.
he
about
just
harming
said.
the
He said it
dog. I
won't
said about
harm
harming
the
your psychological
dog.
dispositions. I
He's
didn't say about
gentle.
the dog.
Okay.
I said your
okay,
psychological disposition.
So harm is defined
Yes,
by
it's-
what? How do you measure that?
Harm is going to define by the experiences of individuals, right? Obviously, if you harm your
So-
dispositions, you're going to harm the way that you think of the future. And
Okay,
if you
so
harm the way
wait,
you
you,
think of the future,
wait,
harms the way
hold
you
on,
act in
hold
the
on,
future.
hold on, stop mumbling. If experiences differs between people, what's the standard?
if experiences differs between people, there's not. What's the standard? Do you mean like
Yeah,
how we
yeah,
like
Yeah,
measure
he's
it?
saying like,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
if I have a
focus.
good
You're how you measure
experience?
it, you're gonna
What
take
if I have a
focus.
good
proxies
experience
from
having
it.
sex with a dog, and you
focus.
have a bad
I did this
experience
to you,
having sex
James.
with a
I
dog?
did this to you, James.
Why?
Look at
What's the
James's
standard
face.
there?
Look at James's face.
we have like an actual like divorce lawyer on here, and I'm like called out to like.
This
fuck
is
Jim Bob.
this
I mean, listen,
Yeah.
Jim Bob.
Phys-
Jim
no,
Bob.
listen,
I'm
I'll tell you
asking
something,
what
I
you're
find
asking
this
for. When you
topic very
say the
interesting.
metric for it, like what is the
Yeah.
standard for it? Are you saying what's
Listen.
the standard for judging what's morally correct, like generally
Yeah.
experience-wise? Or are you talking
Alright.
about how do we figure out what's morally correct experience-wise?
Yeah, he's saying if you're using
real world, like, what are we
experiences,
doing?
how do you
Yeah,
differentiate them? If he has a good experience
Yeah.
having sex with dogs, I have a bad experience having sex with dogs.
Yeah.
How do we decide which one is the standard?
Are we on the topic of having
deliberate
sex
on,
with dogs
obviously?
again?
Already, Vosh
You
is
clearly deliberate on
undefeatable. Vosh is undefeated.
Dude,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Vosh shit was so fucking crazy. People were just like defending him.
Stop
for-
obfuscating and being bad faith
Okay.
and
Okay,
engage
go on.
and
Answer
engage.
my question, Jim Bob. Sorry, we've got to hyperfixate on this topic right now.
Like Tom
for it.
said, you just tried to ground why it's bad in the mental states of someone's
Yes.
experience or whatever you said, right? And
Yes,
Tom
obviously.
correctly said people's experiences could change. So if I have a good experience and Tom has a bad one, what's the methodology to determine which one's the correct value judgment of the experience?
What's the correct value judgment of the experience?
Methodology.
So, for example,
No,
I'm trying to
methodology.
give it to you. I'm trying to give it to you. You're interrupting me. Right? You're not going to
didn't
get the answer to your
rephrase
question.
it.
If you
You
keep
didn't correctly rephrase what I asked, though.
I'm not trying to rephrase anything.
Get your hair out of your face.
You can't
What are you
hear
doing?
because
This
your
doesn't
eyes
make
are
you look
covered.
good. You're just like you're tweaking the fuck out.
Okay.
Listen, well, the way
What's
you're
the
going to
methodology?
The methodology you're going to use to determine what's morally correct is you deliberate on the experiences. For individual experiences that you've had, you can look at the experiences that you have as an individual. You can look at them and compare how you felt in different situations and think about which one you'd rather do. When it comes to talking about other individuals, you can think about as the entirety of the experience. Listen, if you're not going to engage with the argument, it's just going to be like mockery. Like why are you even asking for one?
Okay,
Listen,
hang on. Bunk. You are a master at mocking. Don't give me that shit. You love it. I know it.
I'm super fucking tired, dude. I'm like super
Listen,
tired. I want to chill the
guy.
fuck out right now.
Hey, guy.
You're on the
All you
wrong
just said
podcast.
Dog,
is-
you look like a fucking garden gnome. Don't attack
All you
my
just-
appearance.
I am a
look way
gardener.
fucking better than you.
I am a gardener.
Motherfucker, you got a receding ass hairline, the biggest fucking fort I've seen on the goddamn
I
planet.
have
You
a
do
lot
good
of
to
hair.
cover your fucking hairline
have
like I
tons
do.
of hair.
Listen, cover
There's
your hairline
nothing
like I
wrong
do.
with
Fucking
receding
grow the hair
hairlines,
down and use
okay?
to fucking
Let's-
cover that
Listen,
shit. It looks
listen.
goddamn abhorrent.
Well,
You look like a
guys,
fucking goddamn trash man. You
Leave the
got out of a
hairlines
goddamn
alone.
dumpster, smoke crack outside of a Wendy's, and don't know what the fuck you're doing right now.
Listen,
You want to do that
There's
conversation,
Bunk.
or do you want to actually
There's
engage
Bunk.
with the fucking argument that I'm actually throwing?
Listen, AIDS. Calm down. You
AIDS?
said I asked you a methodology. Listen, let's focus here. Let's focus. I know it's difficult to focus.
Let's focus. You were focused on insulting me before.
okay,
And then I insulted you back like you wanted me to. And now I'm asking you to just address the argument. I'm not derailing from the conversation.
Okay. Hold on a second. I asked
Yeah,
you.
set over your
what-
fucking words instead of getting to the goddamn argument.
I asked
You like this better? You like this better? Whenever you call me out like this, you're like, you need to be aggressive as fuck right now.
I asked you what's the methodology, right? And you
Yeah,
said,
and I was answering.
like Tom and me, we both asked you what's the methodology, and your answer was we look at our experiences.
We
That's all you
deliberate
said.
upon experiences that you could fucking think about. You can think about what thing you would rather
Some more
do.
experiences. Some more experiences and preferences. Great.
Yeah, similar experiences and preferences. He's
So-
going to approximate where utility is. You
Okay,
don't have to be able to
great.
exactly
Tom,
get where
what
it's
do you think
at.
I'm?
You have
Tom,
do
what
it
do you
to the
think I'm
best
going to
of your
ask him
ability.
next, Tom? Tom, what do you think I'm going to ask him next now that he said based on our value judgments of the preferences? What do you think I'm going to ask him, Tom?
Different values. What if people have different
Yeah, how do
values
you-
from
how
one
do you
person to
then-
another?
Yeah, exactly.
If people have different values, the different values are going to form different forms of qualia, right? But we have the individual preferences of those who exist.
Can I ask a
Like,
question?
again, he's just going back into
There's
mockery.
a-
Look, if
there's
you're
a
going to
tribe-
retreat back to it every single
Just
time.
not-
Well, so
That's
okay, so let's use a specific example.
Quick,
Like
The entire
if
point
we're
is-
talking
let
about
me-
trans
let me-
people.
right? Give me an
Hold on,
example.
wait,
You need to figure out the
Buff.
fucking
Let me ask
argument.
one. Let me ask
Let's use a
one.
specific
Go ahead,
example
Jim,
real
give me an
quick.
example. Give me an
I'll
example.
give you a
of the problem.
specific
Yes,
example
James, I
real
did
quick.
this to you.
If we're talking
I did this
about
to you, James. I
just
did.
listen, I got you. Okay. If we're talking about trans people and we're saying saying like, okay, for a long time we're saying that it's like wrong to be trans or it's wrong to be gay, and we're saying that like these are immoral actions or this is like messing with society, blah blah blah. But all of a sudden we decide that like, hey, this is going to be more acceptable. We want to make it to where trans people are more accepted within society. We want to make it like we'll call you transphobic if you disagree with what it is that trans people are doing or their transition surgeries or any of this stuff. How do we change from one social norm to the other, or why do we make that change?
Why do we make that change? We make that change because it's going to bring about the most preferable experiences, right? There are these things that you can change about your preferences, there are things that you can't change about your preferences. There are certain things that are innate psychological facts about you, and typically speaking, we have large social changes. New people get born, people's opinions get changed over time, the new information gets added, people deliberate more. Like those are the reasons things.
So it's arbitrary. Listen,
no, I
that's
never
a
said anything
lot
about
of
it being arbitrary.
That's a lot of rapid syllables.
Nothing I said had anything to do with being arbitrary.
They could change based on the majority, right?
What can change based on the majority? The social preferences? Yes. The social norms can change based on the majority. That's not what I'm talking about.
That's arbitrary.
Social norms.
Hold on.
Yeah, I'm not talking.
Hold on.
Wait, hold on. Just to be clear, I'm a moral objectivist. I don't believe that the morally correct thing is what most people agree the morally correct thing is. I'm a utilitarian.
You get in there, Jake.
Most people can agree things that like upon things that do not maximize utility. I said those are wrong. Those are wrong things to be doing. People can be mistaken on their preferences, and that would still be wrong.
How do you determine? Again, the same question. How do you determine which one's correct?
Which ones are correct on their preferences?
Which ones are wrong?
I can't determine whether somebody internally is wrong on their preferences. What I can do is I can talk to them about it. They can deliberate on it.
All right, hang on.
How do I like? It's like asking like,
Bunk. Chill out for a second.
Okay.
Jim Bob, put me to the center where Jake is. Right. If we're gonna have this discussion, we got a lot of panelists here. I'm gonna put on the moderator cap for a second. It looks like Jake wanted to pop in. There's nothing gonna be fair about this panel at all because it's a panel. So Jake, go ahead, man.
There's a tribe in Papua New Guinea who believe, and I think they deliberated upon it at some point in time.
Are you not talking about the cum warriors? Are you going to bring up the cum warriors?
Cum warriors.
And basically, they like to inseminate young boys at the age of 7. They'll take them away from their mother because they believe that it makes them a good warrior. So they deliberated upon that, and they came to the conclusion.
And they came to the wrong conclusion.
The right thing to do. Why is it
wrong? Yes, you can deliberate. And you can come to a wrong conclusion.
How? How did you?
How do you deliberate upon it?
No.
You go through the evidence that's available to you.
Hang on. Let Bunk respond. Go ahead, Bunk.
Yeah, you go through the evidence that's available to you. There are certain things that are accepted on one hypothesis and not another. You'd actually look at them. If you wanted to look at, like, for example, the effects of individuals getting raped as a child, yeah, you can look at that. We have data on that. It's not very good. It's not very good for psychological states.
Bunk, use a different word, please. We're on YouTube, you douchebag. Listen, how
remember,
did you
he is a moral objectivist. So he does believe in objective morality.
Jake asked you, how did you determine that it's wrong? You just said, people deliberate.
How did I determine that it's wrong? I determined that it's wrong because most people don't live a preferable experience. They don't talk about their rape as a preferable thing that happened in their past.
Don't. One more.
His answer is harm. His answer is harm. He believes that there's harm. Yes.
It's harm. It's the same thing as been the entire fucking conversation.
Answer is
you can't tell me to pay attention to the conversation whenever you haven't heard a fucking word that I've been saying.
How do you
determine in one ear, out the other?
How do you determine harm?
How do you determine harm?
Yeah.
You can ask individuals. Like when you see individuals on largely higher rates of depression and PTSD, yeah, you can determine they're being harmed.
So if it doesn't, great warriors, they had evidence. Clearly.
They had evidence because they were great warriors. What evidence did they have?
They thought that they were warriors. They thought it made
they
them
thought that they were warriors. Yeah,
and they thought it made them
they were warriors.
To be
now
inseminated by a man.
So go ahead. Give me the argument. What's the argument in favor of them doing that? What do they believe is true?
I don't have to make the argument because I think that it's wrong.
Just to be clear,
let him finish, Bonk. Let him finish.
Wait, but he's also saying that he believes in objective morality.
I'm also an objectivist, saying that you believe in objective morality. I don't.
What part of let him finish did you not get? Let him finish. He's almost done. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. So how are you how do you have objective morality if you think that we just talk amongst each other and whatever we say determines that?
It's not whatever we say determines that. We can all say that one thing is preferable and it cannot be preferable. It's not whatever we all say. You keep saying this over and over and over again. It's not. I loved that. That was hysterical. That was funny as fuck. I was way too focused on my rant to be like to get the comedic timing of that, but that was really fucking.
It was fucking good. It was good. It was
awesome.
Listen, I already know what James is thinking in his head. He's thinking, you know, Andrew, I wanted to do you this favor, and you brought me into the 9th circle of hell. But you know, James, I just wanted to give you a taste of it over here. Okay, I want to give you a taste of it over here. We're gonna bring it all back. I promise.
This, and it is bitter. I actually have to meet some Papua New Guinean warriors tomorrow morning. We're doing some kid thing. I don't know what's going on, but I'm supposed to meet them. Along with a Chihuahua that apparently wants to file a complaint against Jim Bob. I don't know what's going on.
Don't let him near him.
Bunk, I hope you're writing all this down. I don't see you typing anymore. He's like, this is not.
Yeah, I think
I can't type. My microphone's on. Everyone's gonna freak the fuck out.
What Jake?
I swear to God, if his hair was a little longer, Bunk is my younger son. I swear to God. Like, you haven't met my younger son, Andrew. I feel like I'm talking to my son. Like when Jake and Jim Bob were arguing with him, I'm like, all right, slow down on Bunk. Leave Bunk. Hold on. Bunk's a nice young man. Like, it was really my really.
Well, no. Don't give him that much credit. Don't give him that much credit that he's a nice young man.
What Jake was asking.
I want to be clear. I took like a shit ton of verbal battery before I said anything to me on this panel. Okay, I'm so goddamn.
We don't even know what you just said.
Yeah, we don't
even know what you just said, Bunk.
No.
It was something really mean.
How do you even order an Uber? How do you?
How do I order an Uber on my phone?
Jake was saying, what if the tribe prefers it? What if the whole tribe prefers it?
What if the whole tribe prefers it? Yeah, the whole tribe can prefer it, and the people they're raping are going to still have more dispreferable experiences. Let's run through this way. Okay? Let's say that you're one of these tribal warriors.
Dude,
right? You're one of the tribal warriors who are going to...
Listen, fucking Spurky. Stop
yeah.
saying the fucking word.
I'm sorry. I'm not used to like that.
Get used to it.
TOS. That's normally like not TOS. I don't know if people get fucked for that. That's like AIDS as fuck.
We do.
I've never gotten fucked for it. Okay,
great.
Super cool.
It's not as much about TOS as it is about getting monetized.
That's what I would assume. But normally live streams make the majority of the revenue off of like donations. So like. But,
no,
I mean if it's like a really big deal.
Some of them make them off of advertisement. Invited you to the
get it
panel.
off of
Hang on, Bunk. Invited you to the panel. Follow the TOS, bro.
No, I'm saying I'm sorry. It's a mistake every single time. I'm not trying to do it.
Andrew, can I just go get some alcohol and I'll come back?
Yeah.
As much as you can get it.
All right, I'll be
Grab the whole bottle.
Take your time.
This is going to be so much better then. Thank you.
TOS can't understand him. True as fuck.
Yeah.
No, just run it through this way, right? In your mind, okay? Would you rather experience that? You'll say you're both
too
both
loud,
ends
Bunk.
of it.
He's so loud.
Back off.
Let's say you're on both ends of it, right?
So
you have the ability to be one of these people, and you can go out and you can do this thing that you think you prefer, right? Where you're making this person like the great warrior by assaying them, right? Or you can be the person who's getting assayed at 7 years old. Who do you think is experiencing a better preference? Like which one do you think is experiencing like a worse experience, right?
Well, I think the person who's getting essayed is obviously
the person who's getting essayed is getting a worse experience. Is that worse experience?
Hang on. Let him Hey, before you move to the next inquiry, let him respond. Go ahead, Jake.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I can say that with confidence because I believe that there is morality that is eternal, and that there is morality that is objective, and there is a moral authority. You believe that everything is just
morality that is
transient.
objective. I don't believe it's flippant and transient. Again,
okay,
no,
well,
I don't.
Not
there are
transient,
objective claims you can make about subjective states.
Bunk, stop spurging. Hang on.
Why
Have a
would
conversation like a rational person between
One
the two
person
of you.
talk. Yeah, one person.
Go ahead,
talk.
Bunk. Go ahead.
but-
We'll start with you, Bunk. Go ahead.
It's just a bunch of claims. First of all, no, it's not going to be like arbitrary, like I'm constantly in flux or whatever. Right? People's preferences can change.
Exactly what
the
you
moral
said.
system is going to be the exact same, right? The same things are going to be motivating to people. You're just having different circumstances. The morals aren't in flux. You have a bunch of different circumstances, and in different circumstances, different things are going to be morally good.
Okay.
Right? For the second claim, you were just.
So you're making a claim for an eternal
this is
objective
why.
morality.
This is why.
Bunk.
Hang on.
I just got
Jake
stopped.
respond.
I just got stopped in the middle.
How?
correct.
How did you get stopped?
You made a claim. I'm
He was
responding
still
to
in
it.
the middle of
Yeah,
You
you
made
made
a
a claim, and I started responding to it. I was jumped on.
You're trying to make
so
multiple
that's what I'm
claims.
saying. I'm just saying we can.
Nobody
do
jumped.
Really
Hey, Bunk, relax. I'm listening to it. Nobody jumped on you. But if you're gonna go through the claims, let's go through them one at a time. Hang on. Let Jake respond to claim one.
So-
Go ahead, Jake.
You're making a claim that there is an objective and eternal morality. But you're also making the claim at the same time that the way that we arrive at that is we just talk to each other, and whatever we decide is right. So which one is true? Because either it's transient or it's eternal.
No, that you just talk to each other. This is a form of evidence that you can use. You can use other forms of evidence. You can use your own experiences as forms of evidence. You can use the ways that people look, the way that they act, right, as forms of evidence. There's not just talking to people. Talking to people could be a form of evidence, right? The same way that we can derive things about people's mental state. A psychiatrist might talk to one of their patients when they're trying to determine what's going on with them.
Hold on. Can the conclusion?
It's constantly happening. Actually, before it happens again, Andrew, how much will you bet me for this clip? If I can go back and get Jake interrupting me, how much money will you bet me on that?
Calm down. Bunk, I have a question. Using your methodology, can the conclusion be correct one day and be totally different the next day?
Can the conclusion be correct one day and totally different the next day?
Yeah, can they contradict each other?
No, there can't be a true contradiction, no.
Okay, so if it's
there's not going to be a true contradiction.
Okay, if the methodology is deliberating and you just come to the conclusion X is true, X is bad, and the next day they use the same exact methodology and they come to a different view, how are you going to reconcile the two?
So I think he's saying the conclusion, yes, he's saying the conclusion can be different, but what is true will still stay the same. So whether or not it's harmful will still be true at the end of the day, but that doesn't mean that you knew that beforehand.
Yeah, just to be clear, there's still a true thing that was morally good to do. If this person comes to the wrong answer, that doesn't mean the system is now subjective in the same way that coming to a wrong answer in math doesn't mean the system is now subjective.
Is it ever morally correct to harm someone?
Is it ever morally correct to harm somebody? Yeah, sometimes it's morally correct to harm somebody in order to get more preferable experiences. Yes.
Is that based on deliberation, or is that defined by the action?
You do deliberate on that.
Is it true by the action
alone? It's defined by the action and the deliberation. It's going to come out into some kind of modal scope surrounding what people are able to conceptualize, right? As far as what they're actually capable of doing, right? You're not going to be capable of doing something you're not able to conceptualize a given.
He's saying understanding human nature gives you a better.
I gotta go, so I'll see you guys later.
It's just going to be.
All right, see you, man. Have fun.
Thanks, guys.
And buddy, by football he means soccer.
It's just gonna be cashed out as the modal scope of practical reason, the things that your mind is practically capable of coming up with, and underneath the laws of the laws of physics, right?
So why should we eat vegetables?
And again, we're talking about morality right now. Why are we trying to hop a topic?
You
want to talk about my moral system? You wanted to go down on my moral system. Now that we're going down on my moral system, your critiques aren't actually fucking working. Now you want to jump back to veganism. You want to jump back to earlier in the conversation. I want to jump back to earlier in the conversation. Let's keep on this topic.
Are you on drugs?
Saying, are you on drugs? No, dog. You've just repeatedly insulted me over and over and over again, interrupted me over and over and over again. No, I'm not on drugs.
Okay. That's a yes for me.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so why ought the panel and the listeners?
The drugs are actually wearing off. That's the funny thing. My ADHD medication is wearing off now.
Why ought the panel and the audience be vegan?
Why ought why are we going back to earlier in the conversation, Jim? Let's talk about my moral
That's how it started.
That's how it started. We're not on that right now, are we? You want to get the fuck off this topic?
Your moral.
Listen, Jimbo, this doesn't make you look good. You got called out for it and tried to do it again. You should do it again.
Bunk, does your moral system influence whether we should be vegan or not?
Yes, it does. Now let's talk about my moral system.
Okay, so what's the moral system?
That's premise one of the argument. Premise one of the argument. It's a 2-point conclusion. Okay. Premise one of the argument is utilitarianism is true. Premise two of the argument is utilitarianism entails veganism, and is a syllogism between those two.
Wait a second.
So now that you dispute premise one, utilitarianism is true, and we're talking about that right now, Jim Bob.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Don't try and go back to the conclusion. Don't try and run back on the argument. Stay on this fucking topic.
Yeah, let's talk about utilitarianism. How the statement utilitarianism.
Let's go back. What was the critique you had of my system? Do you remember?
Let me talk, or you want to get kicked?
Wait, is that what it sounds about of letting you talk?
Hang on. Calm down. Hang on. Let's hang on for like 15 minutes. We're gonna make this as productive as possible.
It's right? Simple.
Bunk, let Jim Bob start. I'm gonna let you respond. I promise. Go ahead, Jim Bob.
When you say premise one, utilitarianism is true, what is it you're describing in utilitarianism that's true?
What we have impartial reason to do is that which maximizes utility.
No, but what is utility? Who defines what works and what doesn't?
What utility is going to be preferable experiences minus dispreferable experiences.
Okay, so can someone have a preferable experiences that contradicts your view of utility?
Can someone have a preferable experience that no?
So if you have a preference toward lowering harm, and someone has
All
a
right.
preference of increasing
All right,
harm.
I'll do it.
That's still gonna be a weighing of utility, right? It's just gonna be that person has a preference towards other people being harmed, and that's going to be a preference that we consider alongside the harm that they're going to be causing.
Listen, Bunk. The question was, can two preferences contradict each other? The answer is yes.
Yo, give me what? Can two answers contradict each other?
No. Can two preferences contradict each other?
Yes, two preferences can contradict each other. Give me like 1 second. I gotta fix my audio.
You guys have managed to take a fascinating debate topic and turn it into something that could literally put anyone to sleep. This is.
Oh shit! I did it again.
I'm listening to the two of you talking. Just all I can think is like, for real, people are fucking listening for this. Like you guys have picked, if you are arguing solid positions, I haven't figured it out. You can keep interrupting each other. But if either of you is making a point about veganism that's even vaguely, you've found the least interesting two positions to take on veganism by just using a classical philosophy approach, as opposed to talking about some of like the more topic specific aspects of veganism that are worth debating.
You mean like nutrition or something, like in the normie sense?
Well, that's one, but it could be like, do you have a dog?
Yeah, do you have a
dog?
Bunk?
Do I have a dog?
Yeah.
Well, Bunk's
that's
the
where
vegan.
this started.
So I'm saying
was
someone
with
who's
the
an animal
dogs.
person. Like, let me be candid. I have a dog. I have 2 dogs. Okay, love those dogs. Anything happened to those dogs, my heart would be broken. I know they have an emotional life. I know that they're excited when I come home. I know that they're sad when it's raining outside. Like, you can tell by that they have an emotional life. They have an internal life. Now, whether or not a pig is as smart or smarter than my dogs, okay, we can acknowledge their intelligence is at least close to it. And the thought of eating my dogs is absolutely baffling to me, especially when you consider the fact that in the modern world, I have a choice between 15 kinds of tofu crumble, things of lentils, or slitting the throat of my dog and eating it. I think only the craziest person would go, yeah, but I bet the dog tastes better. So it makes it somehow morally correct and acceptable, or at least questionable from a moral standpoint, than saying just eat the fucking lentils. Like, if somebody put you in a room with a cow and a knife and said you can slit this thing's throat, or you can just go eat a pizza over here, you're probably going to pick that. Now, to me, again, we could go deep into each of those pieces, but like, I think that's a very human or real argument for veganism.
I got it, but James, that whole argument rests on luxury being the standard. So let me ask you.
Like everyone's life in this panel and everyone you know, how much of your day do you go, what should I get it? They only have meat at Trader Joe's today. It's not true. You can be a vegan fucking anywhere. I know, because I was a vegan 30 years ago when I was in my 20s and you couldn't fucking get vegan food. And so now when people are like, it's hard being a vegan, are you kidding me? Like, there are whole aisles of regular grocery stores filled with vegan food.
Yeah, but James, the difference in your presentation is the question of whether it's pragmatic, can you be vegan, versus whether it's ethical, absent the luxury.
Both.
Well, no, absent the luxury.
It's both.
Yeah, but they want to take this into presuppositionalism. You're not giving them the ability to take this to presuppositionalism.
I'm saying, James, if you needed to eat your dog to survive, would you do it?
Excuse me. This is a family channel. I need to have at least a cardboard links away from you.
Brittany, thank you for the raid.
Okay.
Let's go.
A family channel.
No.
All
right.
Sorry. Go back to Jimbo.
James, the
Look,
question.
Jimbo, the issue with the argument, though, is that the argument you just made is something that vegan will say, look, if you have to eat your dog to survive, that's fine. The vegan view is just you shouldn't cause unnecessary animal suffering. If you have to eat your fucking dog to survive, of course I'll do it.
But
Okay,
Jimbo,
great. So
I'll eat you if I have to survive. I'll eat another person if I have to survive. But if I have a choice between eating the person or a lentil, I'm going to go with the lentils if they're in abundance, which they are.
Right. Okay. So Bunk and James are arguing from something called, well, whether it's necessary or not, right? So who determines whether something's necessary?
Look, necessary just means you're obligated to cause it, right? That's all necessary means there. So the way you determine that is the same way you determine any moral fact. You just evaluate the moral fact. So
okay,
you
Bunk.
got... Yeah, what did you say?
Hold on a second. Is it
I'm sorry,
necessary
Aaron,
for?
Sorry.
Sorry, sorry, Synth. Is it necessary to eat your dog? If you're
Generally,
gonna die?
no, but if you had to survive, it would be.
No. Why is it necessary to survive?
In the case where it's necessary, just make it the hypothetical, right? It's like asking me, like, oh, in a hypothetical world where you had to rape Hitler to stop the Holocaust, why would you have to rape Hitler?
Hey, watch the words, watch the language.
Are you guys
you
really rape is against TOS? I'll stop saying it just for the sake of you guys.
No,
It's
it's
against
not.
TOS.
Hang on. It's monetization. Let's just look at
There are
it
a lot
that
of
way.
monetized videos that you have it in the title.
Listen.
Yeah, I know, but they're leftist videos, so that's okay.
Oh, okay. Well, I get it.
You know I'm telling the truth on that.
It's the oppression of the.
The question is, there's some
the point
threshold.
the point is the way this. I'll answer your question. Right. The same way that you want to evaluate the moral facts in either case, you just figure out if it's the case, right, that you would have to survive, right. But obviously, you have to survive in order to do moral actions. You'd be
No.
I just
Why?
told you why. I just told you.
No. That's just asserting you
You're
have
asking
to survive.
why do you have to be alive to do moral actions?
No. That's a necessary. Okay, being alive. Premise one is necessary to do moral actions. Why? Why do you need to stay alive to do moral actions? Is another question.
Yeah. Why do you need to be alive to do moral actions?
Right.
Because if you're dead, you can't do anything.
Oh my God!
No,
you guys,
no.
you just insist on dragging this into the uninteresting.
No.
This is like wildly uninteresting.
No.
This is not a good
Why?
decision.
Like you can't. I can't even fucking steer you into being interesting. I can't even drag you into being interesting.
Yeah, why do you need to? Why do you
And
need?
you fucking people are like, why won't you be on my podcast? Here's why, guys. Here's why. You are the most annoying first year philosophy students in the history of the universe, which is why I don't care if you're monetized or not. Like, I'll just send you $1,000 right now, and we can use the R word all we want.
There we go. Let's do that.
It'll be the most interesting.
Drop $1,000 so you can say the fucking word. I need the word.
I'm also getting demonetized, so send me $1,000 too.
I should rephrase that. I'm craving saying the word.
You see you later, dude. Hey, have a good one.
Guys.
I'm sure you have court in the morning. Thanks, James. Have a great day, bro.
Oh my God. Take care.
Don't even send me the text, James. Don't even send me the fucking text. Anyway, go ahead.
Which one of you two is the female?
Do you mean biologically? I think it's bunk.
Yeah. The question is, I want to see if you can answer this, Synth.
Answer all your other questions pretty easily. I don't think the next one's gonna be hard.
Okay.
It's gonna be a real curveball from Jim Bob.
You can't even let me ask, can you?
Say it. You've interrupted constantly. Don't pretend you're like some ruling interruptions now.
I'll just wait.
You're just gonna wait? So I'm just talking flux or what?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Look, so what you've done in the course of the debate from what I watched is you bitched constantly over like any mild thing Bunk would do. You would interrupt. So complaining that somebody's interrupting you now seems a bit fucking bold. You sound like a crybaby. But what you look like is not a crybaby. You look like you're like 80 years old and you're pretending to be Chinese. That's what you look like to me. That's my opinion.
It's true. They did interrupt Bunk and they did complain about it. But their answers are way more shorter and concise, and Bunk's are larger and like a lot more wordier.
It wasn't answering a question there.
Bunch of sounds.
It was just interrupting.
Okay, can I ask you a question, Sid?
Interrupting the point. I was literally responding to a bunch.
Okay, you guys are doing meta about the conversation. It's boring. That's listen about the dude.
Honestly, I don't care, Jim Bob. Just stop bitching about it. Right? Just move on. Say your point.
I didn't bitch. I let you
just
talk.
spit out your point.
Okay. The question is, why is it necessary to do moral actions?
Why is what necessary?
Okay. You said
you're asking why is doing moral actions necessary? That's just the definition. What I mean by necessary is morally necessary. It's a modal scope.
Okay.
Why is it necessary, Synth?
What is it?
Okay. You know what it is. It's it.
If you had to do it to stop the Holocaust, like you had to do it to Hitler to stop the Holocaust, I feel like you'd all do it.
Listen.
That's what it is, right?
I mean,
you're not answering the question.
I mean, Synth. No, I'm Synth.
You're not answering the question, though. You're not answering the question.
All right, back to Jim Bob.
You're not answering the question. You said it's necessary to be alive to do moral actions, right?
Yes.
I'm asking, why is it necessary to do moral actions?
That's the definition of necessary, right? I mean, so necessary is a modal term. I'll explain what I mean by that, right? So you can use the term necessary to mean, Don, I don't know where you're zooming in, right? You just said that's a really stupid question. I've already answered it. It's definitional. By necessary, what I mean is obligatory. I literally mean it to mean morally
obligatory. Why is it obligatory?
To do moral actions?
Yeah.
Because that's what that means. It's like tautological.
It's
why from the definitions of the terms. It's like a logical equivalency.
Dude. Okay, so if I say the definition of measuring furniture is measuring furniture, and I ask you, why would we have an obligation to measure furniture? You're saying because the definition of measuring furniture is measuring furniture.
Yeah, it was such a bad mistrack of the argument. That was so bad. I'm telling you what I mean when I say necessary. Listen, what I mean. Listen, you're about to hear it. Deontology is retarded. What I'm telling you when I say necessary.
Oh, that's why. Yeah.
When I say the deontologist agrees with me on this.
Just
point.
saying it's retarded.
Listen,
yeah, just saying.
Look, the deontologist would agree 1-to-1 on this point when you're using the modal scope, and that means when you're using the moral sense of necessary.
What does that mean?
Like I'm explaining it to you.
What does
you
moral
have to stop
mean?
interrupting, and you'll figure it out.
No. You're inserting words that you haven't.
You don't know what
justified.
moral means?
Yeah. What does moral mean?
You don't know what moral means.
No, that's not what I said.
So moral is in compliance with what you have reason to do. That's what moral means.
I have a reason to eat ice cream. Is it moral?
Do you have a reason to eat ice cream?
I have a reason to eat ice cream. Is it now moral that I eat ice cream?
If you were to deprive yourself of ice cream and all the reasons count in favor of eating ice cream, then yes, you ought to eat ice cream. This is like a silly niche case. Of course, you ought to do things that give yourself mild pleasure. Sure.
So I ought to.
Jim,
Hold on.
Imagine for a second, like
No, I ought to eat brain custard if it gives me mild pleasure.
Do that.
Great,
imagine Jim
great
Bob
system.
for like a second.
I can't. I just can't, dude. I just can't. I can't with these people. These are fucking. These are like.
I'm surprised
twinks.
you went on as long as you did. That was impressive.
No. I can't do it. They're. The basic system he just said was, it's moral if it gives you some pleasure. That's all I needed, right? So you point to anybody who gets some pleasure from any sort of activity, right? And it's moral from their view. And that's his definition of morally good, right? So whatever is reasonable to do if it gives you pleasure, that's the end of the whole thing. You can't argue veganism is immoral. Why? Because it gives me pleasure to eat meat.
Well,
Okay?
I think they're doing like a dichotomy between pleasure and harm. So they're saying you ought not cause harm and you ought to do things that cause pleasure.
No, but Tom, if the pleasure, comparatively exceeds by a lot the suffering, right? All you need is a bunch of people agreeing, like a bunch of me and Andrews eating steaks galore and saying, the pleasure I'm getting from this savory steak and this wine reduction sauce clearly exceeds whatever you're transposing as suffering onto this cow. The utilitarian view would have to accept my mode, right?
Right. Well, I mean, and that's because I would say that, yeah, I'm somewhat of a utilitarian, but I'm not a vegan. And I would say that, like, I definitely don't care about the harm of the cow as much as I care about the pleasure I get from eating the cow. And so, yes, I'm going to value my pleasure in that case more so than I value the cow's suffering.
Right. And then you're asking, well, whose standard of measuring, right, the trade-off of pleasure versus suffering? Whose standard, right? By whose standard?
Right, well, but I would ask you the same thing, right? Because you're a Christian, you also live with people who are not Christians. And so you still have to come to some sort of arrangement as well, whereas even though you believe your moral system is right and they believe their moral system is right, you still have to come to some sort of arrangement where one of you is going to get your way, right?
Yeah, give an example of getting your way, though.
Let's say we want to ban all gay marriages. Like, who actually like gets to decide which one is right or which one wins out? Like, it's going to be might is right in this sort of case, right?
Well, in a sense, it might be a might is right, being that the government is the thing designating and defining what a marriage is. I would just argue that the marriage as defined has no place in government defining it, right? So I would take that approach. So if the secularists wanted to have a gay marriage, I would just argue for even from their utility, there's no real utility of the thing called a marriage or a sacrament between two dudes. I mean, what's the value other than defining marriage as simply a contract where you get some entitlements or you get to visit each other when you're dying of AIDS? It's like, that's not a marriage to me, right? A marriage to me is a completely different context. And so even that example assumes that there's some defined thing called a marriage, right? As opposed to a legal contract between two people that's really no different than a company contract or an employee to employer contract, right? So I would argue that it's meaningless, that there really is no further utility from a secular view that marriage is something you ought to do, right? It's just an inversion of a tradition.
there's a utility argument, but my point is that the, like, one way or the other, we're always going to have some contradicting worldviews that still have to get along, and we still have to come to compromises between the two. So even where you're saying, like, hey, some people are going to have, like, this preference and they'll have this qualia, and other people have this preference from this qualia, they're still going to have to come to some sort of conclusion there, or they're going to have disagreements. Like, that still exists between utilitarians and Christians at the same time.
That's assuming that we should defend some sort of pluralistic view of variation in ethical norms, and I don't even believe that.
Are you against like a democracy overall?
Yeah, democracy is shit.
Okay. All forms of democracy, or just like the United States form of democracy?
Yeah, it's all shit. It's all liberty based. It's all just based on entitlements, absent duties. And there's no ethical foundation that gives you your duties. And so what's the point in giving everyone entitlements, freedom, liberty, if there's no guiding principles for the oughts, the duties, how you manage your liberties, how you behave, how you ought not to behave. If liberty is the end goal, democracy is pretty consistent with just liberty as some sort of virtue. But my view is, you couldn't possibly argue liberty is a goal. If you got to liberty, it doesn't tell you where you ought to take it. It just gives you Burning Man, right? So do we want a Burning Man society, Tom? Even in your exit from theism, do you want a Burning Man society?
No, but we do have liberal...
Why not? No, but why not?
Because I don't think that that's beneficial. I don't think that people want to live in that. That's why.
Okay, what if all of the leftists, like freedom-loving, dancing in the streets, sex on a train people, start sort of winning over the culture, which I'm seeing, like that these things become more normal, right? What if freedom of expression is the ultimate goal of liberalism, right? And people start adhering to it. How is it different than Burning Man?
It wouldn't be. I would fight against that. And I think that most people would fight against that, because that's because there are other like negative consequences that come from those sorts of things. Like having sex in the right places, like being overly stimulated by sex, or having like I'm not thinking of the right word, overexposure to like sexual actions kind of take away the pleasure from sex being the special thing that's like meant for like you and somebody else in private. Also, like it being exposed to children would be a bigger problem.
I understand, Tom. It sounds like you're borrowing a little bit from your remnants of the Christian ethical system, right? And trying to apply it to a secular view. But the thing is, if you like what you like, right? And people like what they like, right? And liberty is the ultimate goal of liking what you like, right? So how would you argue against some sort of tipping point where you're doing something too much? How would you yourself from your system go, you know what? I know you like that feeling, but you have to wean it back a little bit. How would you argue that from your ethical approach?
The same way we do currently. We say that we have freedom of speech, but we still put some limitations on what that means. You can't like say, I want to kill this person, or you can't like, the example of like yelling fire in a crowded theater. Like we still try to put limitations on these things, even though that's the goal.
That's a harm principle argument. And so I'm saying from your harm principle argument, because you're using an example that actually assumes harm might be possible, and that's why you're arguing. I'm saying if there was no harm from your view, you would have to say weekend orgies for married couples is fine so long as there's no harm or violation of rights, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, is that view, right? From your view, you can have loads of degeneracy that's completely legal and consistent with a liberty-based, rights-based system. And I'm saying to you that from that view, you're eventually going to get public indecency, which we already have, and you, Tom, can't argue against it. Why? Because it doesn't directly harm people.
Well, it doesn't have to have a direct harm, but because like I can make arguments on indirect harm. But yes, if you're saying, hey, if you take away all of the bad things from this thing, is it no longer bad? Yeah, no, it's no longer bad. Like if it doesn't have any problems with it, it's just ceased to become a problem.
So, gotcha. Yeah, so here we go. So sorry to be morbid, but it's a really good example, right? So if, just like the vegans, right? If you remove the assumed harm in the experience, in the subjective experience of the subject, whatever you do, like let's say, a dead person is a good example. If you do whatever you want to a dead person and they have no family, no repercussions, right? Indirectly to other people, is there anything wrong with doing anything you want to a corpse?
If there's no indirect harm or direct harm, no, I would say no.
Okay. So you advocate in your system that if there was a group of people that paid money through a private corporation that found a bunch of John Does and Jane Does that didn't have family, you'd be okay with a system and a company that sold 5, 10, 30 minutes to people who had sex and did other things to dead corpses. That's the kind of society you'd prefer under your ethical system.
So currently, we also live by like the golden rule: do unto others that you want done unto you. People don't want this done to them after they're dead, and so they prefer that people don't do this in general because they don't want it done to them after they die.
No, you don't get to grant people preferences after they're dead.
Wait, so you're advocating for this, not me. I'm making an argument for why I wouldn't advocate for it, but you're making a rule for yourself because this is a rule that I would abide by.
Tom, you're presenting reasoning, posthumous reasoning. That means you're transposing wants and desires and the subjective experience of harm after someone's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Right.
So how does someone have a subjective experience of harm if they're dead, sir?
Well, they don't have a subjective experience of harm if they're in a coma either, but I would still live by this rule then as well.
So what's the harm in someone who's, whether they're in a coma or they're gone, what's the harm? You already conceded there's no harm from your harm principle. There's no harm for someone, starting a company and renting out time and space in a room, right, for people to have their way with dead people.
Yeah, I'm saying if nobody cared about this, I'm saying that if nobody cared and nobody had a problem with it, and then yes, I would not have a problem with it either.
Okay. So if there's a culture that starts to percolate up where people start taking your view, and there is a society that has a bunch of companies that find homeless people who don't have families, and they put them in a system where you can rent out a room and diddle them after they're dead, you're saying there's nothing wrong about that from your moral view?
Yeah, because I believe that, like, even when I was a Christian, I believe that God had morals for reasoning. I believe that he understands human nature and that God wanted us to act in accordance with our human nature. And so even in this case, you're bringing up an example that I think most people just wouldn't want to happen to them. And that's why we would live by the golden rule in this case, is that, like, because people don't want this to happen to them, we just live by the rule that we don't do this sort of thing. But if you're saying, hey, we're going to change human nature to where people would be okay with this sort of thing happening after they're dead, then yeah, I would be okay with it. But you're taking like something that I believe even God would say, yes, like humans don't want this sort of thing happening, so I would be against this, and I would say this is immoral because this is part of human nature.
Tom, what reasoning would you have that you didn't want someone doing this to you if you were dead, if you didn't have any family or there was no impact? What reason could you possibly provide to say, I wouldn't want this to happen to me?
I don't know that I can explain my wants all through harm and things like that. Like sometimes I just want something and I can't explain exactly why. And I think in this case, lots of people wouldn't want people having sex with their bodies after they're dead, even though they can't give like a logical reasoning for it.
How about this? Let's say there's a person like you who comes to the conclusion that they don't mind this activity, posthumous activity, and in fact the posthumous activity is simply an extension of basically OnlyFans in real life. It's prostitution but with dead people.
I mean, I've already bit the bullet that yes, if nobody cared about this, I wouldn't care about it either.
Okay, great. So you're okay with a free market system that when family members die, as long as the family itself is okay and some extended family, that they can rent out their dead grandma to get fucked in a room for money.
Again, I don't think this is going to happen because I think this goes against human nature. But yes, I'm okay with it. Like in principle, yes. This is what I've already said.
Tom, what did you do?
Tom, hang on. What do you mean human nature? You mean that the ontology of humans is that they don't do this type of thing? The being of them.
Yes, that there is something in us that makes us want certain types of things or not want certain types of things, that we all kind of have an agreement on what we would call harm, even though we can't always explain why something is harmful, because we have human subjectivity that makes us want and need things through human nature, yes.
That sounds like mob rule, Tom.
In what way?
So this sounds like if you're trying to make a definition of what harm is, and you just say, it's based basically around what the society considers to be harmful. Doesn't that seem to you to be just kind of mob rule-based morality?
In some way, obviously, I can disagree with people on what is or isn't moral. Like, my standards are going to be different from others.
Only corpses.
Just because they've come to a conclusion doesn't mean I agree with their conclusion.
But I got to ask you this on the harm principle. Let's assume for a second that grandma's buried in the backyard, and nobody will ever know that you did this thing, ever. And grandma, of course, has no soul because you're a secularist. And you go in the backyard and you dig up grandma and you have your way with grandma. What is the actual problem with that, Tom?
Well, one, it could cause psychological problems for the person who's doing it. But let's say it didn't. Yeah,
they're already psychologically damaged enough that they're going to dig up grandma's corpse, Tom. I don't think you're going to do much more, right?
Yeah, generally, just because something doesn't actually have a direct harm doesn't mean that there's not a rule against it in the first place. So I can say, hey, if I shoot a gun at your head, just because I miss doesn't mean that it wasn't immoral in the first place.
Yeah, you're talking about
I shouldn't be shooting.
Utilitarianism. I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm saying there's still a principle that can be against it one way or the other.
I mean, you realize that rule utilitarianism, though, is basically reduced to just utilitarianism, because let's assume for a second the society has no rule against it. Okay, now we are assuming the society has no rule against it because it can't definitively say how it's harmful. A person goes in the back, nobody ever knows it, they bang grandma's corpse. What's the actual problem here from the harm principle?
Well, I'm saying that I would have a rule against it. So you're asking me about my subjective moral system, and I'm saying because
why would you?
Because I do think that people wouldn't want this to happen to them after they're dead. Like, even though there isn't a direct harm to the person after they're dead.
What if grandma left a note and said, "You can hunt my dead body after I'm dead"?
Signature grandma.
Then have at it.
Love grandma.
Then have at it. Then
I would still have a rule against it, but I don't think I've already bitten the bullet numerous times already that yes, if nobody cared about this and nobody said that this was a problem after they died and they didn't care if people had sex with them, then yeah, I wouldn't care either. But I just don't think that world will ever exist because we do care.
Yeah, here's my question though. I don't believe you. I think you would still care even if nobody else had a problem.
I would, because that world will never exist. That's my point.
So you're inconsistent. You're inconsistent, though.
No, I'm not inconsistent.
Of course you are.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that, yes, by the standards, by the hypothetical that you're making up, yes, I would be okay with it. But also, that world will never exist because that's outside of our human nature.
So the world doesn't exist where groups of people decide that they're
going
to
to do
horrific
outside of human
actions?
nature. People do this.
Of course it is. Yeah, they do it, dude. There's literally a thing. There are people, there's a guy in Britain who's dead now, but he habitually did this, right? And from your view, he didn't cause harm. You know why? Because all these lonely people laying in the bed, Tom, didn't have any family to scream out.
Jim Bob, do you think empathy is within human nature?
Empathy is just a signal. What does empathy tell you? Nothing.
So you don't think empathy is a part of human nature?
Empathy,
I'll bite the bullet. Sure.
Empathy
is part of human nature.
Signal.
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, because there are some people who don't have empathy. So just because there's some people who don't have this thing, that doesn't mean we wouldn't say that it's part of human nature.
That's true. It's like we would have to have some kind of standard that we would apply even for people who don't have empathy.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying with this.
That standard would be harm.
Tom, what's empathy, though? Isn't empathy the projected, assumed feeling someone else is experiencing? Yes or no?
Yes, because we all have human nature, yes, so we can understand one another.
Do dead people experience anything?
No.
There you go. Empathy out the window.
Hold on, Jim Bob. I've already answered this. You know I have like 10 times. So
Why did you bring up empathy?
Yeah,
Why
but I
did you
like
bring
watching
up
you
because
bite the
you were
bullet for
saying
the
that
10th
just
time,
because
Tom. Every time you bite the bullet, it's funnier than the last time.
Because you said that I brought up an example of something, and you said, well, not all people do this. Some people will have sex with dead bodies. And I'm saying that doesn't mean that it's not against human nature. Just because some people don't have empathy doesn't mean that empathy isn't part of human nature.
Tom, like Andrew said, of course, obviously it's in human nature that some people do this. If it wasn't in human nature to do this, then they couldn't do it.
I'm saying it's human nature that we don't want it done to us even after we're dead. I'm saying that's part of human nature.
Okay, what are wants?
Unless we scribble a note, right?
Yeah. Except we scribble a note, then we desire it.
Unless we scribble a note, then we desire it.
Human
There's
nature.
no harm, right?
Just because
Bang
somebody doesn't have just because somebody doesn't have empathy doesn't mean that empathy stops being part of human nature. One or two or three people not having a thing doesn't change it.
Tom, what is unempathetic about grandma leaving a note saying you could bang her corpse and you bang it?
That's not what I said.
Where's the lack of empathy?
That's not what I said. We're talking about human nature right now. We're saying it's a lack of human nature.
I want you to answer to what I said. Where's the lack of empathy there?
I don't know. I didn't.
Yeah, because there isn't any, right?
There's no lack of empathy there.
I didn't. Yeah, I wasn't saying that.
Right? No, that's my
point. I'm not
saying,
Tom. I wasn't saying you were saying that. I'm saying to you, if it's true that empathy is being used here, some kind of model for why human beings should avoid certain behaviors, because empathy is one of the metrics that you're using to gauge harm. That's correct, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So then if grandma scribbles a note and says, bang the corpse all you want because grandma was half senile, or maybe she wasn't half senile, she just scribbled the note anyway, and you go out and you do that, where's the harm here, Tom? And why would that require a lack of empathy for you to make the determination that it was harmful in the first place?
I've already said there wouldn't be harm, that I would still have a rule against this in general anyways, but there wouldn't be harm on the individual. Right. I've already answered this. You know what? You know based on what, Jim? You already know based on what? I've answered that like 100 times.
He doesn't. Here's why. Let me bridge the gap. Because you're using this as a metric for what harm is. And then you say that this is not harmful, but your metric for why you would have a rule would still have to be determined on harm. That's why rule utilitarianism always reduces to utilitarianism, because the metrics which you use to make the reduction to what is harmful is how you come up with the rule in the first place.
I didn't use harm for this example. I use the golden rule that do unto others as you want done unto you.
Which is a harm principle.
To some extent, yes. But it's like, I can't, so this is when I'm giving an example where I'm saying, I can't explain a harm in this case. I just know that human nature makes it to where we don't like this thing. So I can't explain an actual harm there outside of the fact that human nature just says we don't want people to do this. We already know this.
Tom, is there a food people generally don't like on net balance?
Maybe. I don't, not that I can think of.
Is it evil because they generally don't like it?
Okra, right?
Okra, yeah, slimy. Slimy as fuck, right?
Well, no, but morals are like a thing that you're doing with another person. Like in order, like you have to be engaging with another person for things to be moral in some way.
Oh, it's relational? Oh, it's relational.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so what grounds your ethical principle? Now we know that it's relational. If, you're also arguing something could be harmful and wrong if the person doesn't exist and just their corpse exists. So this is a contradiction. Premise one, what defines something as immoral must be based on something relational. Premise two, it's immoral to do X to the person who doesn't exist anymore. They're just a body. So what's the relational, what is this relational basis if the person's dead?
The rule against it, the rule. Right? Remember, okay? I keep explaining this. We would have a rule against this because overall humans don't want this thing. We know that overall humans have this feeling. There might be one or two humans here and there who say, yes, I want you to have sex with me after I'm dead. But we already have a rule so that even though there's one or two who feel that way, it doesn't matter because overall, generally, we know that most people don't want this thing.
Tom, are people generally overall greedy?
Sometimes, yes.
So greedy is moral.
No. What?
Based on your system, it is. That's what follows. You just
said.
What are
you talking about?
Based on what most people want, X is immoral or immoral. I'm telling you, most people have the nature of greed. So you, in your system, have to abide by that and say, well, what is mostly in human nature to be greedy? It must be good.
Well,
because that's the inverse of because that's the inverse of most people don't want X. It must apply to most people want X. How are you going to reconcile what people want versus what they don't want?
Lots of morals are set up to go against human nature, like the fact that we lie, or the fact that we want to steal, or the fact that we want to kill. Like, lots of morals are set up to stop us from following through in human nature. So it's not as simple as saying, like, but when I say, but hold on, when I say that we make a rule just because we know it's part of human nature to not want people to sleep with you after you're dead, that doesn't mean that all things now that are part of human nature become.
Do you see the problem? This is the problem, Tom.
That you're not understanding, and you're arguing against things that I'm not saying, and then ignoring most of my arguments to make a new one.
I know that's your experience.
Yes, that is the problem.
I know that's your experience. No, this is your argument. That you say we know what's generally immoral because of what most people don't want, and we know what's moral based on what most people want.
That's not what I said.
Okay, so if you say most people don't want to be touched after they're dead, that from that view, you're saying it's immoral then, right? Regardless of harm being absent.
I'm saying that, yes, that is the reason that we would make the rule, is because we know most people don't want this thing, yes.
Okay, and then you're saying we make rules against our nature as well. So if our nature is to want to, use force to have sex with somebody, you're saying, well, even though that's human nature, we got to say, no, we should fight against that human nature.
Correct.
So both cases, you're appealing to human nature, and you're not giving us what's distinct categorically between the things we want and desire in our human nature towards something and the things we don't desire. All you're saying is human nature drives us to things that are bad and drives us to things that we like and prefer. That doesn't tell us, right? That's the thing you're actually using as the system of determining which one's good or bad.
It wasn't, but if you want to ask me the question of how you distinguish between those two, that wasn't what the conversation was about. But if you want to make the conversation about that, I can easily answer that, yes, like most morals are going to exist so that we can have a society and so that we can get along with one another. That's why morals are relational, is that you have to engage with another person. And so these are rules that we set together so that we can live amongst one another and engage with one another in the healthiest manner, so that, yes, so that a society can exist. Outside of a society existing, like, yeah, the morals don't really matter.
Okay, great. So why is it pragmatic or moral that a society exists?
It doesn't have to exist.
Okay. So it's not moral for a society to exist.
It's I wouldn't say it's moral nor immoral. It's just a thing that exists.
It's just amoral. Okay, so your whole basis for morality is that we ought to believe in something called morality for a pragmatic use toward existing, and yet the goal of existing is itself amoral.
The thing that morals exist for is amoral, yes. Do you think society existing is a moral thing?
Humans existing?
No,
yeah,
society existing, not humans existing. We can exist by ourselves. We can exist in very small tribes, but we don't have to exist in societies.
Well, humans are a precondition for societies. So
correct.
The question is really whether is it moral for humans to exist? I would say yes, biblically, that we're here to procreate, multiply, so that we have a life that we can know our Creator, right? So that's very basic view from my view. But
you don't have to live in a society in order for you to know your Creator. You don't have to live in a society. You can live in like little tribes in the woods.
No, I understand, but we're not really doing an internal of my view, because my view actually grounds why existing itself is not amoral.
But your explanation just now for why society would need to exist morally doesn't make sense, because you said it needs to exist in order for you to know God, and that's just not true. You can know God outside of a society.
I said humans need to exist.
Correct, and as a precursor to society, but that doesn't mean that we have to live in a society to know God.
Tom, I didn't say. I said humans are a precondition for society to exist.
Correct.
Humans existing is a precondition for knowing God.
Correct. So you're saying you just didn't answer the questions. Okay, so I'll ask you again. Like, is society existing a moral thing? or is it just amoral?
Humans, no. The society could be fucking upside down pagan, burning babies alive, right?
Well,
Depending
society is an entailment of humanity anyway.
Yeah, you can't.
Two people,
escape
two
it.
people is the society. If
Right.
it's not, then tell me what a society is.
Right.
I wouldn't say two people existing
Then what
together
is
as
it?
a society. Let's say that
Yeah,
it's
When
a
does it become a
large group of
society?
people working together,
Yeah, what's
each
a large
person
group?
doing their own part
number?
Yeah, what is a
in
large
like a
group?
very complicated
13?
way. It's
13?
Yeah, is it 10?
I would say it's
subjective.
subjective, but it's well over 100. I would say
It's
it's in the
13.
thousands. It's
Why?
like a,
Based on what? Based on
based
I
on the
just made it
fact
up?
that each person now has to do separate jobs. So like if you have a point where you're doing hunter and gathering sort
If
of
you have
stuff,
4
then
people,
then
each
maybe
person would have to do separate jobs, Tom.
Done. Society.
Okay, sure, that's a mini society, I suppose. But when I say
Okay, so it's a
society, that's not what
society?
I'm talking about. So
Well, what are you talking about?
Well, as I said, it's like when large groups of people each have to do their own part in order for large things to exist. So like some people will make cars, some people will work on those cars.
Okay.
Some people
I
will
understand what
manufacture
you're
the
saying.
parts for
some
the
people will
cars.
make spears, some people will make spearheads. I got it, right?
Yeah.
So why couldn't 2 people be a society?
It could be, but that's not what when I say society, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like tons of things existing in large part. Yeah. That's,
Right. So then
if
we
you
just
want
have
to
a
call
definition
those things. Yes.
But I don't
that's what I'm saying.
understand. I don't understand though the definition difference, because you would call what I call a society at 2 people the same as a society at 100 people. What would be the delineation?
Well, so sure, if we want to say like a tribe even would have to have a set of morals, and the morals would exist for that tribe to exist, and they would change the way that they interact
Morals
with one
would have to
another
exist with 2
just
people
for that
existing.
tribe. So then sure,
thing with
like in that tribe, they would have to have a set of standards and rules so that they can interact with one another. Yes.
Okay. What about one person? If one person existed, wouldn't they still need to have some kind of set of morality?
Probably not. No, I would think that they would only have to have it if they're interacting with other people. Like
So from your purview, morality really only exists as societies exist.
correct. It only needs to exist because society exists. Yes.
Right, and that's it. So if there was just one human being left, everything he did would be moral.
Anything.
Well, morals just wouldn't exist, so it wouldn't be moral nor immoral.
Well, then if morals don't exist, then you could never say anything he does is immoral, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So then if nothing he does is immoral, the inverse to that is there is no morality.
Well, I guess I am saying you couldn't say anything is right nor wrong because right and wrong wouldn't exist.
Could he
If
go?
you-
Could he go and commit SA on a cow? Would that be moral? If he was the last human on
Amoral.
Earth?
You'd
Yeah,
say
sure.
amoral.
Yeah, sure. I mean, in fact, is there anything he could do that you could think of that would be immoral at all?
No.
No. Okay.
Okay, so you're basically just saying there's no such thing as morality, because if morality existed, it would exist independent of whether there's one person or 2 people or 100 people. And so from your view, morality is just a fictional construct that's arbitrarily defined with language, given a society based on the acceptable norms, which would be informed by majority rule, and your entire ethical
Nope,
system.
it's not even informed by majority rule. It's just informed by one other person watching you do it.
Just the judgment of one viewer.
Just one person watching you do it. That's morality from Tom's perspective.
And it could be not
If
moral
I watch
next
you
day.
if I watch you essay a cow and I don't like it, now we have a moral issue. That's it. It's just an observational thing from Tom's perspective. So if it's one person, nothing can be moral or immoral. If there's one observer, then it becomes a moral or immoral issue. Why do you think we default to the Christian world?
I'm not bunk
assume
or
that there's an observer, right?
Yeah, I'm not bunk or synth, so I'm not dumb enough to say that like morals are objective if I'm not leaning on some sort of God as an axiom, right? Like that sounds insane to me. So yeah, so I would say it's subjective, and whoever the viewer is the person who's kind of coming to a conclusion on whether or not it's moral. But like I would also have my own interpretation as well.
Be correct, right?
There's
Correct.
no correct one.
Yeah, so if there's no viewer that's correct, there is no such thing
No
as
morality. Yeah, just saying subjective morality is just like saying it just doesn't exist. So I don't know why
Saying
you
something
use the term.
subjective doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So like a business is a social construct.
No,
a business
wait, you're right. You're correct. Hang on, I'm going to bite this bullet right away. You are correct, right? Saying that something, in this case, does not exist or it's a social construction, fine, we'll go ahead and bite the bullet. But in this particular case, you're just talking about observational circumstances. So there can't actually be morality because there's only two people left. They both have a different moral system. Both their moral systems in your eyes are completely equal. They can't be anything else because it's just subjective and it's basically just based on the observer.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be based on logic and reason, and that they should come to like conclusions based on what is
Tom,
going to be best
for
everybody.
Question. Let's assume for a second that there is one conscious person. He's a man, right? And there is one baby who is born, and this baby, unfortunately, has severe brain damage. If this man goes over and he essays this baby every single day until it expires, I just want you to go ahead and say that there's nothing immoral about that.
There's nothing immoral about that.
Okay.
And
yeah,
when would it be? Okay, Tom. When would it be immoral? What would you have to insert, no pun intended, where it become immoral?
Well, in our society, like people end up getting damaged through like trauma, and they end up with long, like.
How do you know? How do you know the person doing that to the baby isn't damaging themselves?
Damaging themselves? Oh, I don't know. Do you know that they're damaging themselves?
It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter if they were. All that matters is no observer.
Right? Right? Yeah,
so
it wouldn't matter
if they were
your harm
damaging
principle.
themselves.
Your harm principle doesn't exist when you're the only one who's conscious and thinking, because from your view,
well, you're saying the harm principle
yourself,
doesn't exist if the no harm exists. Yes, of course.
Well, no, if you can't, the question for us is, can you harm yourself?
Yeah, you can harm yourself.
Is it
you
immoral
can smoke
to harm
cigarettes.
yourself? Is it harmful? Is it immoral to harm yourself from your view if you're the only person? If the harm principle holds?
Generally, no, probably not. Like
not?
I think
Then
it's fine for Andrew to smoke cigarettes. He can make the decision for himself. He's not engaging with anybody else when he does that.
Tom, but why would the harm principle, right? Why would it only apply to multiplicity of people and not to yourself if the description of harm is the same, whether it's to yourself or others?
Well, because if I'm defining morality based on like principles so that we can engage with other humans, then by definition, it's not a moral action until you're engaging with somebody else.
So when
now, let me ask you something else. Let's have the assumption that the last person on Earth believes that there is an observer. He just believes that there's an observer. Let's say there's not an observer, but he just believes that there is one, right? And so based on the fact that he believes that this observer exists, he acts in a fashion where he wouldn't, like, I don't know, essay a baby. Would you say that this person is still living a better life than a person who would, let's say, essay the baby?
Possibly.
But I don't know what that means. Yes or no, or
I don't know, because you guys said it's possible that he's harming himself. But obviously the answer is possibly.
Just forget whatever Jim
Well, you
Bob
just asked me if
I'm
he's living a better
life. If you
life.
believe that there was an imaginary observer, the observer didn't actually exist, but you thought an observer existed, would it be preferable that, from your perspective, that a person believed that an observer did exist?
You're saying so it's like a person on an island by themselves, and we're asking if it's preferable that they think
person on Earth. Tom doesn't even exist.
No, I would say that it's better that they engage with reality.
From Tom's preference right this second for what is moral and immoral, if the thought that an invisible observer existed and this guy would act in a much better way, at least from your preference right this second, if one did, would that be preferable to you that he did?
No, I don't know. I don't know what would the benefit of that be. You're saying, hey, like this guy should believe in something that's not real. Why would I want him to do that?
Well, I don't know. It seems like if it were true that he thought an invisible observer existed, and so therefore he would not go and essay an unconscious baby, I would think that from your preference right this second, that would be better, right?
Well, from my preference right this second, yes.
This is what the entailment is, from your preference right this second. So if
But that's because I live in a society where that is wrong,
yes,
whereas he lives in a society where it doesn't.
I'm asking you about you now.
Yes,
Would
me
it be
right now,
better
I
for
think
you
that
now?
essaying babies is bad, yes.
Right. So if there was an invisible observer, which a person believed in, he was the last man on earth, it would be preferable that he believed in that invisible observer in order to follow your preferences right now, correct?
In order to follow my preferences right now, yes, that would be better.
So the most moral way that he could act would be if he believed in an invisible observer, right?
You mean
Yes.
God? Yeah.
Just
So
say
your
it.
own system, advocates for a belief in God.
Well, no,
and you're
I'm
acting
saying,
against it.
but I
Yeah.
well,
No. You
hold
just
on, hold on.
literally conceded that even assuming an observer like God is more preferable even from your system, and yet here you are rejecting it and defending fucking grandmas.
No, when you said more preferable from my system right now. So he's saying, hey, currently you have a moral set right now that you think people should act by. And would you want this other random person who has no reason to engage in this moral system whatsoever? Would you want them to engage in this moral system? And I said, no.
Yes.
And then he says, well, but from your standards that you're holding in this society, what would you want him to do? Okay, sure, I would want him to do that, but he's not in this society, so it doesn't matter.
So what's the entailment of that?
That's not actually what.
The entailment of that is that Tom's preferences are that you believe in God, even if you're the last man on earth, to act in the most moral way that Tom would want. That's the entailment.
Can you explain the logic there? I'm saying that I don't actually think that he should engage in my moral system that I currently have. You're making up a weird hypothetical where I want him to do this, but I don't want him to do this.
Why would you care? Well, wait a second. That's really weird, because if that were true, then why is it that you would state that you would prefer that he believed in this invisible being so that he acted more in line with your moral system right now?
Because in your hypothetical, I want him to do that. But in reality, I don't.
Well, then I don't understand. What's the distinction here?
What?
The distinction is that in reality, I do not care if this person in a completely different society engages in my moral system right now. Whereas in your hypothetical, that is part of the hypothetical. So it doesn't actually engage in my real wants and needs. It's just a made-up version.
No, that doesn't make any sense. You could have just said no. You could have
Why?
just said no.
That's
I don't
part of the
care
hypothetical.
if he believes in this system or doesn't believe in this system based on even my preferences right now.
That is what I said, and then you changed the hypothetical to where I did care. You changed the hypothetical to where you said, I want him to engage with my preferences right here, right now.
All I'm asking you is this. Should people, do you think, uphold your standard of morality even if you don't exist?
It depends.
Does it depend or does it not depend?
I don't think I can answer the question based on the limited amount of information that you gave me. I don't have a preference one way or the other.
That's why I tested your logic. And when I tested your logic to determine whether you would prefer that people followed your moral system, even if you did not exist, based on a silent observer, in this case, we'll say the belief in God, you said it was preferable to you. So that's why the hypothetical
because that was
designed,
necessarily in the hypothetical.
Hold on, almost done. That's why the hypothetical was there to test your logic. So the question then becomes, if I'm wrong and this was a flawed test, then all you have to do is say, no, if I don't exist, people shouldn't follow my morals.
Okay. So if I said, hey, Andrew, God doesn't exist in this hypothetical. He's not real, right? But you currently here say that God does exist. Now, in this hypothetical, in order for this guy to abide by Christian standards, would you want him to believe that God exists?
Yes.
Okay. Now, take that away. This guy exists. God doesn't exist. And it's not going to be beneficial to him whatsoever to believe in God. Do you still want him to believe in God?
Yeah. So you're asking about two separate. Hang on.
Yes, they're two separate hypotheticals.
Hang on, stop. I'm not asking about two separate hypotheticals. You're actually asking about two separate entailments. So to the first, when I say yes, the second you introduce God does not exist as a surety, I have introduced no such contamination to your hypothetical. I have actually said the opposite. No, I said the opposite. Let's assume in both God don't exist. Assume in both, but if a silent observer, if you just had a belief in a silent observer, in this particular case, they'd follow your moral system, would you ask that they do so? And your answer is Yes, but then when I ask if Tom doesn't exist, should people follow your moral system? You don't know. That does seem like it's inconsistent, whereas mine is consistent.
Okay.
It's actually worse. Hold on. Let me just say this. It's actually worse than that. Hold on, Tom. It's worse than that. If Andrew asked you, should people follow your moral principles if you're not here? You said, no, I don't know how to possibly answer that. This is inconsistent with most people wouldn't want you to do X to them after they're dead. These are inconsistent. You can't actually take one premise and say, well, I don't actually know how to even answer.
Those are not inconsistent whatsoever.
Hold on. Premise one, I don't even know if someone should follow my moral principles after I'm dead.
Never existing versus existing and then dying. These are two insanely different things.
If you just don't exist.
Yes, that's different than existing and then dying. Those are totally different.
Okay, you don't exist. If you never existed and you don't exist, what's the delineation?
That one has a body that you can actually engage with, the other one doesn't.
You mean have sex with for money?
Well, he's saying the void distinction
doesn't matter.
The same.
But the point is that in his hypothetical, he necessitates he necessitates that I have to want that person them to believe in the person. In his hypothetical, yes, it was. You're saying by my standard that I currently have here.
Yes.
Would I want them to do this? If you ask me in general, would I want them to abide by my morals? No, I don't.
Yes.
But then you say I have to want them to abide by my morals in this other system.
Say that.
Okay, then I misunderstood the hypotheticals because I asked numerous times for clarification, and you said yes each time. So yes, that was what I got from it.
Premise by premise, do it again, just one more time.
Yeah, so we'll just test this again. You can stop me at any point if you need me to clarify.
Okay.
All I'm asking is this. Assume for a second that because you believe that morality is based on the observation, the observer, the second observer, this is what creates morality or does not create morality.
I believe it creates morality when you're engaging with another person. That's when it becomes moral.
So that would be the observer.
Okay.
Right.
Well, that would be the observer, right? We'll just say the observer for the state of this. Assume that you had an imaginary friend who you thought was an observer, even if they didn't exist. But the entailment of that imaginary friend existing is that they would follow Tom's moral system if this person believed it. Tom no longer exists. Would that still be preferable to you that they believed that?
And I said that I don't actually want them to follow Tom's moral system because they're in a completely different society.
Actually.
It is. And then you said, no, that is what I said. We can go back and watch it. That is what I said. Hold on. And then he said, well, no, by your moral system that you have here right now.
Yeah, so that's what I just said again. I literally just said it again.
Okay, so so that necessitates that I have to want the observer. It does. But if you're saying, do you in general want this person to abide by your morality? No, I don't care. Whether there's an observer or not an observer, I don't care if they engage in my morality.
Tom, how is it an entailment?
I don't understand how that's an entailment.
Because by the morals that I currently have here in a completely different world, in a completely different society, yes, that would be the case. But in this other world, they're not in my society. They don't have my morals. They don't have any of these things, and there's no reason for them to have them. But as soon as you say, by my system here, yes, now I have to want them to do this. Yes, by my system here. But I don't believe that would actually benefit them in any way.
Hang on. That's the flaw, is when you claim, by my system here, they have to want to do X. They don't.
Yeah,
there's no entailment there.
It's not
okay, I'm telling you there is. Okay, yes, that you're asking me about a preference, and I'm saying that. But in the hypothetical, in the hypothetical, by my system, yes, my system would entail that they have to abide by this. But if you ask me again, in general, should they abide by my moral system? No. They shouldn't. Whether there's an observer or not an observer, it doesn't matter. They should not abide by my moral system.
Just be no.
Okay, I don't know that I can explain it any better than I already have the last 10 times.
Neither do I.
You just say no. You just say no.
I said no the first time, and then he changed the hypothetical. You could go back and watch it. He changed it to where I have to do it by my moral system that I currently have here, but there's no reason to do that.
Yeah,
in
no,
this
I'm
other
not even
world,
disagreeing.
there's no reason to do that.
Tom, I'm not even disagreeing that I said the hypothetical based on your moral system here, should they, right? You could still have said no. There was no entailment that said you must say that they should. And
my
that's
moral
where the
system
conflict came in.
My moral system does.
Well, but your moral system doesn't.
It's just arbitrary. The whole
It's
thing
saying
is
that
just-
it's
That's
arbitrary
the thing,
doesn't
right?
mean
Is that your
anything.
moral system actually doesn't say
I
that
think
they
yours
need
is
to.
arbitrary
The
as well,
testing
so
of
it
the
doesn't mean
logic was to
anything.
kind of show that even though your moral system doesn't actually have an entailment that they should, you would still have that preference anyway. That was the point.
Yes, but I'm saying that outside of that, I don't have that preference. I don't care if they engage in my moral system whatsoever. Like, I had already answered that part of
Yeah,
it.
well, then I don't understand why the entailment, even if there was an invisible observer, wouldn't just be no.
It would be until you say
Yeah,
by my
well, then-
moral
well,
system
that's
here.
my point.
If I'm abiding, if you're asking me through my moral system right now, then yes, I would have to say yes. But in general, no, that doesn't make sense. There's no
that's the
reason for them
problem,
to
right?
engage in
Is
my
that,
moral
no,
system.
you don't have to say yes.
Okay, I guess you
That's
just
where
don't
we have
understand
like,
the moral
disconnect
system.
is I
Then.
don't understand why the entailment of I have to say yes exists. No, you don't have to say
don't.
yes.
Yeah, you've
Why would
bitten.
you have to say yes?
You've bitten every other bullet. That's not even the worst bullet you would bite. Actually,
It's
You've
not
bitten
even a
way
bullet.
worse
It's a hypothetical where I only have one answer, so it doesn't it doesn't make
Tom,
sense.
Oh, you have two answers.
I don't
Yeah,
because
yes or
you're
no.
making
answers,
it, you're
Yes or
making
no.
it by my current moral system. So you already know that
Yeah.
by my moral system, I would have to say yes. You already know this.
Yeah, but I don't believe that by the entailment of your moral system, you have to say yes. That's the point.
Okay, well I do
Okay.
Tom,
Why?
Tom,
Why do you have to say yes?
because by my moral system, yes, I want other people to engage in my moral system. But if in
Why?
this other imaginary world, I don't actually want them to engage in my moral system because they're in a different world. They are
But
in a
that
different
wasn't an
society.
entailment of the hypothetical was that they have to do anything.
you just want them to.
You're right.
Yes,
that was
that's
the point of the
correct.
preference, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
and why wouldn't you just want them to engage in their own moral system? I don't understand.
I
Why you
do.
would
That's what I
transpose
keep.
yours.
I've said like 10 times. In general,
Right, but
I
that's
just
the
want
point,
them
is
to
that
engage
you don't
in
have
their
to
own
say
moral
that,
system.
right? That's the whole point. You don't have to say that. You just be like, I don't want them to. I don't care, right?
Yeah,
And that's it.
You don't care. You don't care if they do. You don't care if they engage in your moral system.
You just never had to say no. That's all.
Yeah, you just
I know
don't care.
we're arguing like a small semantic point, but I think it is an important distinction. That's all.
Also,
Okay.
Tom, if God does exist and you're wrong about your new path of the destructive nihilistic secularist, would God necessarily be the observer that would be required in your own system to denote or to basically make real moral facts?
You're saying if a God exists, he would be the
Yeah.
one who decides what is or isn't moral? Yeah, I would imagine so.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, well, he would be the observer in your system. That like Andrew pointed out.
Yeah,
like,
you guys
if
keep
there
making
was
it
an
about observers, but if the observer isn't affected by your decisions whatsoever, then it's still not a moral decision. Like it doesn't.
Oh,
it
okay,
has
so
to
if
have some
God-
sort
okay.
of direct or indirect
Gotcha.
engagement
okay.
with him.
So, from your view, if God existed, let's say you just presuppose God existed, right? We just rewind a couple months before whatever you did. You say God exists, right? And he's the observer. From your system, that whatever you did would only be immoral if God was the only observer, right, in your life. An act would only be immoral if it caused God harm.
Wait, that was I'm lost. What is the question?
Now the question is, you're based in the harm principle. We're rewinding when you believed in God. If God was the observer, you're saying an action that would only be immoral if it actually caused harm to the other observer, in this case, God.
And your question is, would that be immoral to cause God harm?
Well, I'm saying in your system, it could only be immoral if it caused harm to the other person or, personhood being who's observing. In this case, it would only be God. If only you and God existed, right? You're saying from your system, an action.
All right. Enough. Here, let's make this easy. Tom, get the fuck out of here. Me and Jim Bob have another panel that we're going to jump on. That's Blood Sports. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I hope, by the way, that you had fun and that
I
you'll
did.
come back in the future.
Yeah, I
to the
appreciate
next
y'all
chat.
having me on. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tom.
Have a good
I
night.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Later.
Take care, bro.
Am I stupid? Am I dumb? Did anybody else understand what was happening there? Am I fucking insane? Did anybody else understand what was happening there with that fucking hypothetical? Did you understand, like, they were necessitating that I answered in a specific way? No? Okay. All right. Let me Let me type this up because this is fucking ridiculous. All right. I'm super annoyed by the fact that like they didn't understand their own question. This is driving me crazy. All right, let me pause the freaking game. Okay, so there's another world where there's another moral system, okay? They're saying, hey, would you want this person to engage in the current moral system that you currently believe in? My answer was no, I would not. And then they say, well, but by the morals that you currently live by and that you currently believe in, would you want them to do that? Well, by my current moral system, in my world, yes.
Mr. Stantherman 3000 tipped $45. I didn't understand Chia, but Tom, you are immortal. Fire, fire, fire.
Thank you, Mr. Stantman. Appreciate the $45 tip. Let's go, dude. Let's get some cheers in chat for Stantman. But yes, in my current moral system, yes, I want people to engage in my morals. Yes, that is the point of a moral system. It's a prescription. You prescribe things onto other people. So yes, by my moral system, I necessarily have to want other people to do the things that I want them to do. Like, that is necessitated by a moral system existing in the first place. The Trib with the 5 gifted memberships. Let's go. Thank you, my dog. Let's get some more cheers in chat for the Trib. My mans. So yeah, where I say generally, do I want them to engage in my moral system? No, I don't. I don't care if they engage in my moral system. They're in a completely different world, completely different society, completely different everything. There's no reason for me to want them to engage in my morality. Absolutely no reason. But then they say, well, no, by your morals that you currently have, would you want them to have this observer? What? Of course. I don't have a choice. Like, duh. What do you mean? That there is no option here. You're not giving me another option.
Bruh, if it wasn't for my love of set theory, I wouldn't have been able to sit through that. Bad faith debate bothers me so much. Tom is fair.
Set theory, let's go, dude. Let's go. I got my vape juice that I've been looking for a while. Mango vape juice. Although I don't think it's actually the right one. I think I got the wrong one. I ordered it like a week ago. It finally came in, and I'm just now realizing I ordered the wrong one. I'm a freaking idiot, dude. I'm so dumb. I'm so mad at myself right now. Damn it. Thank you for the $5, Trib. Tomfoolery Show, I think they were confusing morals with moral system. Moral is the process and moral system is the application of morals. Right. So that's, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It felt like they didn't understand their own question. As soon as you say, like, if you ask me, do you want them to abide by your moral system? My answer was no. And I said no. But then they said, well, no. Do you want them to do it choosing currently by the moral system that you currently have? Yes, of course. What do you mean? Like, what? No, duh. I don't have much of an option here. Like, you're just You're just making it to where the answer has to be yes. Like, it's so obnoxious. I'm pretty mad at myself. I ordered 2 of these through the mail, spent $50 on them, and all I got is the one that I already have. There's one that I've been trying to get from vape shops for like months, and they're all out of them, and it's my favorite juice. I've been getting it forever, but they've all been out of them for months. So I was like, all right, I'll just get online and order it, and I ordered the one that I've been getting instead from the vape shops, and not the one that's been out this entire time. Fucking stupid. So dumb. That panel was so frustrating to sit through. They really only deal in gotchas. They do, which is why you just have to bite the bullet. Like, you don't have much of an option. You just have to bite the bullet and just move on. But once you bite the bullet, you have to, like, give a caveat to say, like, but this is the reason that that's okay, right? So I can say, yes, in this weird hypothetical, I would be okay with people having sex with dead bodies. But in the current world that we live in, that will never happen, because we know that people will never be okay with that. So you can make up this weird hypothetical that goes against human nature, but we know within human nature, nobody will ever want their bodies to be banged after they die. The question was, would you want them to make a decision with your moral system? So it's obviously yes, but that means that God matters in the hypothetical, and it's meant to be a gotcha. So the question was, do you want them to abide by your moral system? My answer was no. I said the answer is no. And then they changed the hypothetical to say, well, no, you have to answer based on the moral system that you're currently using. Okay. Well, obviously, based on the moral system that I'm currently using, the answer has to be yes. So yeah, like the initial question, I answered it, but then they changed it to something else, but then acted like it was the first question, and it wasn't the first question. I don't like they didn't engage with how much they changed the question. Tomfoolery Show, that's why Jim sent Synth to the Shadow Realm, because Synth won't bite the bullet and turn the tables on him. Look, Synth and Bunk, like, they're fine, but I don't like debating them. I can't stand them either. They're super obnoxious, and the way that they debate is like hardcore debate bro, like a philosophy brain that I don't like that shit. It's obnoxious.